Good evening and welcome to the November 14, 2023 meeting of the Milton Select Board. Before we begin, please join us as we recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for that. Before we begin, the Milton community just about a week ago lost someone who's been involved in our veterans programs and our American Legion for many, many years. He was mentioned at our Veterans Day ceremony, and he's someone who participated in our community as a town meeting member. And as I said, as someone who drove a lot of the veterans programs and the veterans events for many, many years. Frank Stout was a vital member of our community. So if you'd all join us as we take a moment of silence to remember Frank Stout. Thank you for that. Item 3 is public comment. For public comment, we, based on our recent edition of the policy, we allow 21 minutes, 3 minutes per speaker, up to 3 minutes per speaker, which would be 7 speakers if each person takes their allotted 3 minutes, and more if they take less. And typically we go back and forth between those online and those who are here in person. The 3 minutes, unfortunately, is pretty strict because of the law. We have to allow an equal amount of time to everyone to do this. So what I typically do is I will give someone a little bit of a nudge at 2 minutes and 30 seconds so they know when 3 minutes are up. So I think we have a number of people signed up. So if you want to come up, for the in-person folks, come up in the order as best you can as you signed in. That would be great. And if you come in and give your name and address and take your 3 minutes, that would be great. And actually, Mr. Milano will be timing the 21 minutes, and I'll time the 3 minutes. And as I said, I'll give you a little bit of a high sign at 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Great. Thank you so much. My name is Nawar Musin, and I live at 19 Low Circle in Milton. Dear Select Board members, thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And a special thank you to Ben Zoll for all the invaluable advice and information that he provided. I am grateful to live in a town like Milton, where love and compassion are at the forefront of all that we do as a community. Examples are far too many to list tonight. Just as our community has stood in solidarity and raised the flag for the innocent Israelis, our brothers and sisters in humanity, horrifically killed by Hamas on October 7th, I am respectfully and humbly requesting that we stand in solidarity and raise the flag for the innocent Palestinians, our brothers and sisters in humanity who are being horrifically killed as we speak for a crime they did not commit. What better way to show that we in Milton are standing united that by raising the Palestinian and Israeli flags side by side, affirming that coexistence in peace, dignity, and love is indeed possible, and what we in Milton stand for. We stand against anti-Semitism. We stand against Islamophobia, and we stand against any bigotry that devalues a person's humanity. My friend, Alex Rosenberg, a Jewish friend and a fellow resident of Milton, will be reading a statement from Rabbi Benjamin from the Congregation of the Blue Hills supporting this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Machine. let's go next to our online. We have one hand raised online, and then we'll come back to an in-person person. So if we want to promote, looks like Marianne Kinsella has her hand.
Correct. How are you? Oh, how do I,
We can
where's
hear.
my face? You don't want to see my face anyway.
Oh, and one thing, Ms. Kinsella, usually I try to give people the heads up at 2.5 minutes, and no one can ever hear me
Okay.
for the online people. So if there's a way you could see, I'll kind of wave at you if you don't hear me at about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Okay?
Sure. I don't know why I can't get the camera on. I apologize.
All right. Well, we'll think only the best of
Okay,
of
thanks.
the way you
Well, my
look.
hair's not done, so. My name is Marian Kinsella, and actually I know Noir Messina. It's very nice to see her on there. It came to my attention that there's been a little conflict between, I didn't even know there was an Israeli flag up, if I'm understanding there is one, and now they want to put the Palestinian flag up, and additionally there's a Ukrainian flag up. I don't think any flags should be up. I think the only flag that should be flying in municipal buildings is the American flag. We are all Americans, and that's the only flag that should be flying up. I think what we put on our own properties, supporting, the Palestinians, supporting the Israelis through this horrible time is fine. But I think in town buildings, at the fire department, the police department, the school, in those areas, we are all American, and those are the only flag, and that is the only flag that should be hanging there. And I just think all these flags need to come down. I didn't realize as a Jewish woman that flag was up there. And it bothers me because it should only be the American flag. We are all Americans. We are all in this together. And I think that right now there's so many other things dividing this town that this is just going to not make it any better. I am against Islamophobia. I'm against anti-Semitism. And I just wish that we would keep certain things neutral. And putting flags of other countries up at our municipal buildings, I don't think is a great idea. So I just wanted to voice my opinion on that. And thank you so much for taking the time to let me speak.
Thank you, Ms. Kinsella.
Was that under 3 minutes?
You clocked in at 1:35, so you actually are the best. You're the best of the year so far. You're the best since
Great.
May.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
All right. So we'll go back to our in-person folks.
Good evening. My name is Alex Rosenberg, and as Noir said, I'm going to be reading a statement by Rabbi Alfred H. Benjamin of the Congregation Beth Shalom of the Blue Hills. Dear members of Milton Select Board, given that I am en route back to Boston following the Stand with Israel rally in Washington, D.C. today, I appreciate that a fellow Jewish resident of Milton is reading this on my behalf. First and foremost, I want to thank the Select Board for the tremendous support you have offered the Jewish community here in Milton in the wake of the grotesque terror perpetrated on October 7th by Hamas on Israeli civilians, along with those from other nations. Your additional declaration supporting the right, responsibility, and necessity for the State of Israel to defend itself against Hamas, given its two major objectives, to kill Jews and destroy the one and only Jewish state, was also much appreciated. Flying the Israeli flag in front of the town hall was a powerful, symbolic act. Thank you. Now, though, is the time for more. I agree with the Milton citizens, including members of Milton Muslim Neighbors and members of the Milton Interfaith Clergy Association, who have shared with me a deep sense of worry, heartache, and dismay about the pain, suffering, displacement, and death being experienced by civilians in Gaza, and also the ongoing plight of the hostages being held by Hamas. It is important for the wider community in Milton to know that our Select Board understands that Hamas does not represent all Palestinians, that there are many in the Palestinian and Muslim community who seek peace, looking forward to the creation of a Palestinian state that would live side by side with the State of Israel. Many in the Jewish community, including me, feel the same. In 1995, as a new Israeli citizen, and thus first-time voter, I was proud to cast my ballot for a party that called for two-state solution. Now, more than ever, I would do so again. With that in mind, I would strongly support the Select Board should you decide to put up a Palestinian flag next to the Israeli flag. It would be a symbolic act that encourages all of us to look forward to a hoped-for future, an act that says what's going on now is not the way it has to be. And for anyone who might object, please remind them that Hamas has a flag and that no one is asking for it to be welcomed into our town. Thank you. Shalom. Salam. Peace. Thank you kindly.
Thank you, Mr. Rosenberg. I don't see anyone online. So seeing none, if we have someone else who's signed up.
Hello, my name is Véronique Vendette, and I'm not going to be as eloquent as our previous speakers, but I think we're all saying the same thing. I think that in Milton, we're very respectful and loving of our neighbors, and that's why we love our town so much. And I think that when I saw the select board message that went out November 2nd, knowing all of the loss of life that have happened on both sides, I was a little perplexed that there was nothing mentioned about the Palestinian civilians that have died. So I just want to be mindful that as a town, if we send messages out like that, we need to be inclusive. And so that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I see we have one online, so we'll go next to the person on the line, who is Mr. Hadjar.
First name? Which Hadjar?
John Hadjar. John, are you there?
Excuse me. John, this is John Hadjar. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well. John, I'm going to
good.
I'm going to try to give you the high sign at about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, okay?
No, my statement will be very short.
Oh, great.
I just want to say that there's no moral equivalence, and I agree with Mary Ann Kinsella that the only flag that should be flying is the American flag. However, I want the record to reflect that there's absolutely no moral equivalence between the horrors perpetrated against poor innocent civilians, Israelis, on October 7th, and and the response of Israel. And unfortunately, there are poor innocent Palestinians who are held hostage by an Islamist terrorist organization. We have to make clear that distinction. There's no equivalence between Hamas and the state of Israel. Israel is a state that's recognized by the United Nations, and its citizens have a right to live in peace. Now, I'm an American, proud American, but my grandparents came from Lebanon, and they experienced the same Islamist violence that's being perpetrated now against the Israelis. That's continued to be perpetrated against minorities in the Middle East, especially Christians, Yazidis, and innocent Muslims who want to live in peace with others. Unfortunately, the radicals have the upper hand, and they have had so for a long, long time. So I want to make clear that other people stand with the Israelis, other minorities from the region that have watched what's happened in the course of history, and I just want to make it clear, the same ideology that drove these subhuman people to do what they did to those to rip babies out of their womb and rape their mothers, did the same thing in Damour in Lebanon in 1976, killing over 500, going into a church and slaughtering, slitting throats and raping and murdering. It wasn't well reported at the time, but that happened. So it happened in all over the Middle East by these radical Islamic jihadists, and I want the record to reflect that, and the record to reflect that there's absolutely no moral equivalence between the Israeli Defense Forces using every humane method to minimize civilian casualties and the radicals of Hamas. There's no moral equivalence. One is to be praised for doing everything possible to minimize casualties among the innocent, and one seeks to kill and maim and rape and murder.
30
and
seconds,
they have
Mr.
to be
Hadjar.
eradicated for the sake of Western civilization. And I think the state of Israel and the IDF stand for not just the Israelis, but they stand for all of Western civilization, and we should stand behind them. But I agree that we can't be flying other flags in the United States of America. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hadjar. All right, we have a gentleman, sir.
We getting close to the 21 minutes?
Where are we, Nick? I think, yeah, so,
Oh, okay.
so you get,
I'll be quick anyway. Good evening. My name is Michael Kennefick. I'm an attorney who I work with Moriarty, Beelin, and Malloy. We have offices in Quincy and in Boston. I'm here tonight because I represent a group of abutting homeowners that reside on Woodlot Drive, Governor Stoughton Lane, and Quissit Brook. And I'm here to express some of their concerns about the RFP that this board is preparing for the, quote, friendly 40B development of that land at 165 Governor Stoughton Lane. As you know, in typical circumstances, a comprehensive permit is sought following or in contemplation of a sale of a property between private landowners and private parties. In those cases, the town has very little say in and not much control over how the land will ultimately be developed, being required to grant waivers of your locally adopted regulations to protect environmentally sensitive areas in Milton. Moreover, you have to grant waivers of your zoning requirements. Those zoning requirements, adopted by a 2/3 majority, supermajority at your town meeting, are a definitive and clear reflection of how the town's residents want their community to grow. Because 40B development plans often conflict with that vision, they are often met with opposition from the community, particularly those that live nearby, that will be most, most affected by it. And those are my clients, the ones that live on the surrounding streets. Here you have a unique situation where you may be deciding to go from complete control over this property to having very little. And you will also be voluntarily placing a great strain on your local services, such as your schools, your public works department, and your police and fire departments. And be mindful that while this may be a friendly 40B, the town will not be immune from appeal by the developer or from having to expend significant resources defending an appeal taken by abutters. In this case, the RFP proposes the construction of 35 units on 3.5 acres of land, which comes out to, when you do the math, 1 dwelling per 1/10 of an acre in a residential A district. As you know, your bylaws allow for one-family dwellings, religious buildings and schools, agricultural use, open space, and municipal uses in the residential A district. Nonprofit clubs, cemeteries, small garages, nurseries, medical and charitable facilities, and riding stables are allowed in the residential A district by special permit. Your bylaws generally require that a lot in the residential A district be at least 40,000 square feet in size
30 seconds, Mr.
with a
Kennedy.
30-foot setback, front and rear setback, and 20-foot side setbacks. Large-scale 12-unit apartment buildings, such as those that are being proposed here, are not contemplated in a residential A district. As for the trust, you are acting under the authority of, as you know, that trust requires that the land be used for the benefit of the poor in the town of Milton. Only half of the proposed units will be.
Thank you, Mr. Kennefick. Thank
That's
you,
all.
sir.
I have a statement. Perhaps I can send that.
Sure,
by
you can
letter
email
the
it to
board.
us. You can
Okay.
email it to us and we'll.
Yeah, I still have another page left, so.
Oh, sorry about that. If you have our emails are online, or
Okay.
it's really just our first initial, last name, and then townofmilton.org.
Okay.
You can send it to all, and it's in Milano at townofmilton.org if you want to send it to Mr. Milano.
Thank you. Thought I was gonna get angry.
All right, that's all right. That's all right. All right. So, Mr. Jackson is next. Nobody online? Nope. All right. Pete.
Good evening. I'm Peter Jackson, 14 Capon Street. I've been following your work with the Mass Department of Transportation as you review and comment and push them a bit on their proposal on the proposed rotary at the corner of Randolph Avenue and Chickatawbut Road. I'm delighted that MassDOT has agreed to conduct a more comprehensive Route 28 corridor study to address a lot of the concerns of neighbors and neighboring businesses and the towns. I think that's a great step forward. it seems to me that this presents a tremendous opportunity to consider the establishment of a school zone along Randolph Avenue in the area of the 6-acre parcel that's part of the discussion of providing a new school. I think the establishment of a school zone with reduced speeds, sidewalks, a signalized pedestrian crossing, and perhaps other measurements to improve safety at the location would be a very valuable thing. This analysis would help in the consideration of that site for a new school if the current Guile Road site becomes untenable. So I urge you to work with Mass DOT to add the consideration of a school zone in that vicinity as part of their corridor study. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Okay, and come on, go ahead. Nobody else online? How much more time do we have? We have time, I think, Nick, right? Oh, plenty of time.
Hi.
Hi.
I have a comment and a question.
If you could just give your name and your address. And we typically don't, we typically just take comments. We
Okay.
typically don't have an exchange
Okay.
during public comment, but we do have a public comment response later on the meeting.
Okay. My name is Dr. Shamron Mako. I live on 40 St. Mary's Road. I want to offer clarification of the comment earlier from Mr. Hajar about the plight of Middle Eastern Christians. Middle Eastern Christian here from Iraq. I'm an indigenous Assyrian. And actually, it was because of the American intervention in 2003 that saw the largest flight of Christians from the Middle East. So I want to clarify that. My question is procedural. Article or Section 31 of the town bylaws say no person shall sell, solicit, or display goods, articles, wares, or merchandise basically on town public property without license to do so, first by having obtained a written permit from the Board of Selectmen. And so my question is, how was the decision made to raise the Israeli flag and the Ukrainian flag? Was there a permit that was solicited? And how was that decision taken? And I'd love some clarification on that as a procedural and administrative question. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. All right.
Mr. Chair.
Well, let's just make sure we're through citizen speak. We don't see anyone else online. Anyone else here? All right. Thank you for that. We're done with item 3. Mr. Zoll.
I'd like to suggest, since we have a large crowd here from public comment, that we move the public comment response to the next item.
Yeah, if there's no objection.
Number 23, if
yeah,
we could
there's
move item 23.
No
forward,
objection,
Mr. Chair.
we'll move item 23 up to now, which is public comment response. All right, public comment response.
Go ahead, you can go first.
Mr. Zoll?
Well, so I want to just thank everyone for coming out. I think we've heard from a lot of folks about this subject, and later in the agenda I'll be talking about a different approach. But I think that perhaps a special meeting of the Select Board to consider a motion of raising the Palestinian flag, which I want to emphasize again, like many people have emphasized, is not the flag of Hamas, might be in order, and we should probably try to undertake that before the end of the week, so that, as I know, we have sort of a December 1st hard stop for all flags. There were other points raised that I don't feel like I need to get into in detail, but I feel like that would be, and I'll have a formal statement to read if we have such a meeting about the flag.
Thank you, Mr. Zoll. Other comments or questions? Mr. Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you to the residents who came out tonight. Thank you to Rabbi Benjamin for sending his words in. It's been over 100 days since I left this room. And I wasn't sure if tonight I was going to come back, but today I thought about it this afternoon, and I think I was pretty clear when I spoke at the temple a few weeks ago about how much I consider the respect for humanity and human life and the sanctity of human life in all forms to be very strong and very important. Unlike my colleagues, I'm the only one in this room, like those that have been to Israel, to the West Bank, to Palestine, to Syria, to the Lebanese border. I know what it's like to run from the sound of a missile being launched and have to seek shelter. And I can empathize and only imagine what it must be like to live there in both of those places tonight. I often say there's no place in the world for hate, but we sit here tonight and we know that all of us are witnesses to it. I strongly supported the Israeli flag being flown, and to your point, you're referring to a citizen. We're agents of the town, so we raised it as agents of the town, which is a little bit different. Without making a motion, I think it would be only fair, and I hear Mr. Hajar very strong. There have been over 24 attacks on Syrian bases, on Americans from Iraq since the war in Israel started. War is very hard. I am the father of a combat Marine. My daughter served at Al-Assad base, which is being bombed now during a very hectic and wild times in 2004. I know what it's like to see your child board a C-130 with an M16 and head to a country that you've never been in before. But I do believe that for all of us, just as America, we need to stand, as we always have, for human morality and the sanctity of human life. So if, and I will say it publicly, as much as I have Muslim friends, I have Israeli friends, and I have American friends. And I think for all of us, I think if it gets to the point that we make a motion, I think as a town and as a country, we should stand with both of them. It is not Hamas. Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas to me is no different than ISIS, no distant than any other terrorist, like those who flew the planes into the buildings on 9/11 and those who blew up the marathon bombing. But war is very hard, and unfortunately, and to Mr. Hajar, I've watched Israeli briefings every day, every single day. I mentioned it to Mr. Zoll, and Mr. Zoll was on Monday, actually, whatever, when was Veterans Day? Saturday. I will give the IDF immense credit for an army to put so much into the protection of human life and not risking innocent lives in a war is unbelievable, the efforts they are going to. And the other thing that goes on that very few people know about is that the Israeli forces and the Israeli people care and give guidance and medical aid to those innocent victims of this war each and every day. You don't see it on CNN, you don't see it on television, but I can tell you for a fact it does happen. So thank you for that, Mr. Chair, and thank you for all of you. This is no one ever expected this. The Israelis didn't deserve this. The people in those kibbutz, those innocent victims, and clearly any innocent victims that are unintentional casualties of this ongoing war do not either. So I agree that I think as a community we need to stand together and support the innocent lives of all those affected by terrorism. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Other comments or questions? Ms. Musto.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody that came today. I think it's a complicated issue. Why the flag went up and why the statement came out was in response to October 7th and the horrific things that happened that day. Mr. Zoll and I worked on the statement and we put up the flag. It is complicated. I think we also have to realize that war is complicated. And unfortunately, there are always innocent victims. And so I do feel that the people that have been injured in both sides, it's terrible. It is terrible. I think we also have to realize that there is an undercurrent here of what's going on too. These letters that we got from people, it's a little bit concerning to me that we got letters, but we didn't get them shortly after October 7th. We got letters now. I support humanity and doing the right thing and supporting everybody, but I am very concerned that we didn't receive anything condemning that at that time. That's concerning to me as a community. Hamas is a terrorist organization, and we also have to realize that Hamas was voted in democratically to represent that area in Gaza. For good or bad, they did. I think the thing with the flag you know, it's a very different perspective from anybody you ask about the Israeli flag and the Palestinian flag. I think it's a very complicated issue. I think that a lot of people that I've spoken to feel that, I know that people say that's not the Hamas flag, but Hamas is the ruling entity of that area, and this is the flag of that area. So I certainly support my neighbors and my Muslim neighbors in this community, and I would be supportive to add to our statement of such, doing that. I think the flag is a different conversation, and it's a little bit more complicated. And I listened to some of the recent emails we got and some of the other emails and people that have spoken. And, you know, we did have the Ukrainian flag, for instance, as someone had mentioned. We didn't have a Russian flag, we had the Ukrainian flag. Now we did this. Maybe the best course of action is to remove the Israeli flag and just have the American flag. Thank you.
Pardon me, other comments or questions?
Did you?
Mr. Zoll.
So at the risk of being mundane, I actually have a written statement. I was going to save it for later, but I feel like it's probably better read now in the presence of everyone here. Since the horrific and unspeakable events of October 7th, many of us have grappled with the events transpiring in Israel and Gaza. Tonight and over the past few weeks, we have heard from Milton residents who are struggling with rising anti-Semitism here and around the world, struggling with fear for friends and loved ones now in harm's way, and struggling with compassion for strangers, Israelis, Americans, Palestinians, held hostage by Hamas. It seems at times that peace is further from our grasp than ever. In his second inaugural address, President Abraham Lincoln called on Americans to act with malice towards none and with charity for all in order to do all which may achieve and cherish a just and lasting peace among ourselves and with all nations. In the last address to the American people before he died, recorded the day before he died, President Franklin Roosevelt said, "We seek peace, enduring peace. More than an end to war, we want an end to the beginning of all wars," saying that we must go on and to do all in our power to conquer the doubts and the fears, the ignorance and the greed which made this war possible. On the Milton Select Board, we don't set foreign policy. We do not order troops towards or away from the battlefield. Instead, we address issues in our town. Some of them are simple and some of them are not. Our duty is to the town and to its residents, some of whom are American citizens and some of whom are not, to ensure their safety and their happiness. Peace in our town is no small feat, and it must be, as Lincoln and Roosevelt both said, just, enduring, and with the objective of ending the beginnings of other wars. To the extent that we can further happiness without injury to ourselves or others, we are compelled to act. In his City on a Hill sermon, Reverend John Winthrop exhorted in 1630 that for the very new Massachusetts Bay Colony to succeed, quote, "We must be knit together in this work as one man. We must entertain each other in brotherly affection. We must delight in each other, make others' conditions our own, rejoice together, mourn together, labor and suffer together, always having before our eyes and our commission and community in the work as members of the same body." Let there be no doubt that the Milton Select Board did the right thing when it unanimously voted to put up the flag of Israel to support the victims as well as the hostages of the Hamas attack on October 7th. Tonight and over the past several days, other residents also seeking that same sense of community support have asked us to hang the flag of Palestine, which is not, and I said this before and I'll say it again, not the flag of Hamas, not in place of the Israeli flag, but together and alongside of it. There can be no stronger statement to the residents of Milton that we are committed to the idea that we are united in support of each other than to raise two flags together for the remainder of November as a reminder that we love and cherish the Jewish residents of our town, the Muslim residents of our town, and everyone else, that we may not set foreign policy, but we do care for our own here, that we will set an example for our children to aspire to, that we will resist the rising temptations to hate, to create divisions, and turn blind eyes to sufferings of hostages held in tunnels or innocent babies trapped through no fault of their own in the grinding, bloody gears of war. I will therefore be voting in favor of a motion to hang the flag of Palestine next to the flag of Israel for the remainder of the month of November, in the hopes that this small gesture may both lend comfort to our citizens and inspire others to continue to seek understanding and not division. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Zoll. other comments or questions? So let me address first procedurally and then substantively. Procedurally, because this request came in within 48 hours, it's not on our agenda to vote on. Because of the requirements of the open meeting law, we are required to post things publicly 48 hours in advance of a meeting, in advance of a vote. So if we were to take a vote, we would have to post a meeting. We could do it as soon as Friday because that would give us 48 hours. So that's procedurally how we could affect this. Under the open meeting law, we really don't have the prerogative to take that vote that some are suggesting this evening. But we do have the prerogative to set an agenda and do it in short order. That's procedurally. Substantively, it seems to me that the primary purpose of our government, our town government here in Milton, is to respond to the needs of our residents and respond to the needs of our neighbors. And I think we did that in the aftermath of October 7th. We responded to the needs of our residents. And now we have other needs that we have been that have been presented to us. We have an opportunity to respond to the needs of our residents again. And we responded to the needs of our residents, I think, when we put the Ukrainian flag at the town in the gazebo. It was our government responding to the needs of our residents. And I think, as I said, I think we're now being presented with another opportunity to do that. We have heard that these are complicated and complex matters that are far too great for our simple little select board to consider and to act on. And maybe that's right. Maybe that is true. Maybe it's too complex for any of us. Sometimes intractability results from presumed complexity and presumed complicated matters. But maybe that's right. It's also possible that for our little town, it can be a lot more simple than that. And the simplicity could result from the fact that our Jewish neighbors and our Muslim neighbors are coming together saying that we want to make a statement. And we want the government, we want our government, our town government, to respond to our needs, to show our unity, and to show our desire for peace, and to show the fact that while there may be complexity and complicated aspects of this throughout the world, here in Milton, it's really not that complicated. It's about our residents acting together and joining together and uniting. And so I certainly would like our board to take this opportunity to act on this one way or the other. We could do that, as I said, if we have availability. We could do it as soon as Friday if we had a meeting during the day. Our next meeting is not scheduled till November 28th, and that would really obviate the opportunity to do anything at that point meaningful. So if the members want to meet, Mr. Wells, I see you, but if the members want to meet.
I have 2 points, but
Yeah.
my first point, couldn't we direct the town administrator to just do this? Or do you think we have to vote?
I think we would have to vote we voted in the past on
All
this,
right.
and I think we would have to vote. I think we'd have to post a meeting. I think we would, by virtue of the fact that we've discussed this, we've almost conceded that it would be an open meeting law violation, and so that's something we should try to stay away from.
And I just have one second point,
Yep, Mr. Wells.
is that let's not forget that there are United States forces currently in the Middle East. There's a carrier strike group just off the Gaza coast. There are special operations forces in Israel now. There are Americans at al-Assad in Iraq and in other bases on high ready alert to stand by. I can guarantee you this, that within our American forces, there are Christians, there are Jews, and there are Muslims. Some will be from Palestine, some will be from Israel, and some will be from the rest of the makeup of the United States of America. But let not forget that even if we do vote to do this, we are supporting our own service people who are standing watch tonight, protecting our freedom. And don't ever, ever lose sight of that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. And just a point of clarification, I think others of us have also been to that area before as well. So the issue is, do we want to try to have a meeting in advance of the November 28th meeting?
I think we can make it work on Friday. We should try to do that. If it can be an online meeting,
Yeah,
that would be great.
if it's online, the only thing, it can be quick because I'm really pressed for time. I'm fine with doing it.
It's a single issue. It's
Single
a single
issue.
issue. It's a single issue.
Do we have to have, because if we have public comment, if we get an
We
hour-
typically don't have
Okay,
public
okay,
comment
all right.
for special meetings in the middle like this. So we'll have public comment on the 28th, as we always do, but we typically don't when we
Okay,
have a special
I'm fine
meeting.
with- I'm on Friday.
Is there a particular time that works better? I'm sorry to do this.
Before
sorry to
noon would
do
be
the-
great.
What
Before
time?
noon?
Before noon.
It'll work. How about a
We,
little?
look,
look
Roxanne,
at that at the
we,
end?
yeah, why don't we
Yeah.
do that?
All right,
Why don't
okay,
we-
why don't we do that
so-
then?
So,
Okay.
but the consensus is we'll have a meeting on Friday. The only question is what time?
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Anything else for public comment response?
No.
Well, it kind of is. Sorry, Muna. We'll have to get you next time. All right, thank you. All right, item 4, discussion approval. Thank you all who came out tonight. Thank you very much. Discussion approval, grant agreement with the Copeland Foundation for the Animal Shelter Project. Mr. Milano, what's the status of that?
Sure, thank you, Mr. Chair. Attorney Peter Mello from the Office of Town Council has been in touch with the Copeland Foundation's attorney. They've gone back and forth on the grant agreement. Still remains in discussion, and I don't have an update beyond that. Peter has put together a grant agreement, provided it to them for their review. We'd be happy to move forward to execution if the board was comfortable with that. But knowing the board hasn't seen it, we can bring it back as well. So whatever is the board's pleasure at this point on that grant agreement. It does follow and keep in the same themes as prior grant agreements between the town and the Copeland Foundation.
And Mr. Milano, is this something that we if it is finalized, that we should, or if it's finalized, it's something we should act on prior to the 28th? Is it, given where we are?
Where things stand is we have a contractor who's still waiting on a contract because we're still waiting on a grant agreement, so time is of the essence to keep everything moving along.
So it seems to me we could either do, as Mr. Milano suggested, vote to approve an agreement for the grant subject to town council's review and authorize Mr. Milano to do that, or we may be in the position to have a meeting in the interim between now, and I suppose it could be Friday, although we want to keep it short on Friday, but we could perhaps have a meeting next week to do it then, prior to the 28th.
It is Thanksgiving next week, so it might get
Right.
a little tricky.
Right.
I think if it's prior, same as the others and town council's reviewing it, I'd be comfortable. So I'll make a motion to approve the grant agreement with the Copeland Foundation with the Animal Shelter Building Project, subject to town council's review, and authorize the town administrator to sign on the board's behalf.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Other comments or questions?
I should have said with gratitude for the Copeland Foundation for their fantastic support of the animal shelter.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment.
So this is a grant agreement. Ms. Milano, you said that this is agreement. It's similar to the agreements that have been used before. Is that-
Correct, and it's in keeping with the request distribution schedule that Copeland had been seeking. So it's deferring to some of their requests as well that had been made previously to the Milton Animal League.
Okay. Okay.
Which we saw, I believe.
All right. Other comments or questions?
Let's
All right.
get shovels in the ground.
All right. All those in favor Let's go around, let's go this way.
We
Ms.
don't have to
Mustard.
roll call, do we?
Oh, we don't have to roll call. Absolutely, we don't have to roll call. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
And so it's 4-1. All right, item,
Mr.
so
Chair,
we have, I'm sorry?
I did want to bring your attention that Mr. Parlavecchio from the Chamber is here. We have a quick business item in terms of approving the Chamber's holiday stroll. I don't know if you were interested in taking that out of order.
Without objection, if we could take item 17, which is the Chamber of Commerce holiday stroll, because Mr. Parlavecchio is here, and then that is both the application to use the Manning Park and a one-day liquor license. So without objection.
No objection.
All right, item 17, discussion approval of Chamber of Commerce holiday stroll, Saturday, December 2nd, 2023, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. Application for use of Manning Park and one-day liquor license.
I'll make a motion to approve that, Mr. Chair. Or do you want to bring him? Is he
I think
still-
maybe
Oh,
Joe
right,
wants
okay.
to say
I'm
something,
looking.
yeah.
I don't see.
Is he,
all right.
Yeah, he's here now.
All right. Joe?
Hello.
Joe,
Can
go
you hear me?
ahead.
Perfect. Thanks. I just wanted to introduce the holiday stroll that we're going to be having. Holiday stroll and tree lighting next month, December 2nd. Kind of try in kind of keeping the momentum from the Halloween stroll that we had last month, which went over really well. We're doing another event in the Manning Park in East Milton Square, where we have an agenda from 3 to 5, where there'll be activities on the park, similar to the Halloween stroll. Businesses will set up tables to give out treats and promotional items. Businesses along Adams Street and other brick and mortar businesses in the area will also be giving out treats as well. We'll have a DJ on the deck as well. We'll have Santa and Mrs. Claus and a trio of Victorian carolers that are going to be available and strolling around. We'll have crafts, other promotional items. As you'll be voting, we're looking to have a pop-up bar again, which went over very, very well at the Halloween stroll. We're also going to have a new chamber member that's going to be participating, Ginger Betty's, that'll have a station on the deck as well, giving out ginger treats and gingerbread houses. Simultaneously, we're going to be engaging and activating Central Village too, where Steel and Rye from 3:30 to 4:30 is going to be doing make your own s'mores. And at 5 o'clock, or a little before 5, we'll have Santa and Mrs. Claus come in on a fire engine again, and they'll be available there for pictures after the tree lighting at 5. And thanks to the donation of Thayer Nursery and Richard Wells' help as well, they're going to be donating a tree this year. I don't know how big it's going to be, but I've heard it's big enough to require a crane. So I think that bodes well. But we'll also have their guest appearances, potentially the Grinch and maybe Buddy the Elf. So I encourage everyone to come. And like I said, if it's anything like the Halloween stroll, I think it'll be a great community event.
So Joe, I got the Grinch, Buddy the Elf, ginger treats, and alcohol. Is that what we're looking at?
What else do you ask for?
All right. Comments or questions from Mr. Parlavecchio?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Wells.
Thanks, Joe. Don't thank me. I just carried a little bit of water on this, but I do want to thank Maggie Ophid, who moved really quickly. We weren't sure. A week ago, we were pooling thoughts, trying to come up with an idea, and Maggie not only found a tree again this year, but she came up with a good idea for us moving forward, that particularly with some of the tree services in town, a lot of people have trees taken down during the year, and there are a lot of pine trees, and there aren't that many tree services in town, Hunt being one of the main ones, and who actually erected it for us last year, that if someone knows they're going to take that tree down, that if we get them to wait a little while and then take it down at Christmas time and move it to the square, because we're still a few years away from that tree that was planting being tall enough to be the Christmas tree to celebrate Christmas. So Maggie was really fast on this, and I just want to thank her. It was very quick. And Tom McCarthy and Chase from the DPW too, and I'm very confident they'll get it done. Thanks, Joe.
No, thank you.
I just wanted-
Ms. Musto.
Thank you. I just wanted to put a plug in for this. It's a great event. Maggie Oldfield did help organize getting a tree. John Driscoll and my husband are also contributing to that, so that they're getting a 20 to 25-foot tree. Thank you.
It's great. Great. Other comments or questions?
They're putting it up too. I'll make a motion to approve,
Yes.
Mr. Chair.
We have both. We have the application for
Both of them.
use and the
Both.
one-day liquor license.
Both.
Motion's been made
I'll second.
and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, thank you, Joe.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And see you on December 2nd.
We'll be there. All right, so at this point, we have members of our Affordable Housing Trust here, and so we have on the agenda to recess to the meeting of the Governor Stoughton trustees. So if we could have a motion to recess.
I'll make a motion to recess.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and I will call to order the November 14th, 2023 meeting of the trustees of the Governor Stoughton Trust. Item 2 is discussion approval of request for approval of affordable housing, request for proposals for affordable housing at the town farm. And I think we have members of our Affordable Housing Trust here as well. If there are any questions, if the members want them to be available, I'm sure we can have them. And I think we have online, we may have Ms. Conlon as well, who's on the Affordable Housing Trust. So, I don't know if there's anything that Mr. So why don't you take the lead on that, since you're our representative on the Affordable Housing Trust?
Thank you. So this is has gone through multiple iterations, as everyone here knows. There were changes made to this RFP that reflected the great feedback that we got in from the town. I'm happy to go over line by line, or just to maybe flag some of the bigger adjustments that were made in the particularly if you go to the was it Appendix A, which is the sort of the comparative evaluation criteria. Although actually, I think that we made a change that isn't reflected here. Maybe the town council changed it back from unacceptable to disadvantageous. But that's fine, I guess, to keep unacceptable. But we identified in the affordability section, the affordable units must be restricted to households at or below 80% AMI. And then we laid out the criteria of what would be, that was just some clarification there in terms of how many are affordable and what are they, what is the percentage of affordable and what is the range of the AMI that's available there. In terms of the infrastructure and green design, we have in there, I don't think all of the changes were tracked, but well, it's there. We have, oh, sorry, it's under the site design. Using, yeah, this is an older version, I think I have at least in the packet. So for example, on the efficient, safe internal traffic flow, it should have just said efficient, safe traffic flow. Am I looking at an old version?
I'm seeing the mark.
Oh, yeah.
I'm seeing the markup.
What page is that, Ben?
Page
16
16 of the RFP.
Was this maybe an old version on the packet or something?
I'm looking at the packet myself. Maybe that's not the colors I'm coming through.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm going to look at
Yeah,
Mr.
sure.
Milano's computer then, because it's got the right
Please.
version. Okay, so for example, there we wanted to make sure that the traffic flow was looked at not just inside the site, but for the surrounding community. Oh yeah, this is much better.
So
Okay.
then, can I ask a question? So
Please.
then this is correct that you deleted the word internal?
Yes, the
Okay, so we
internal
are
is
looking at the
deleted.
right one.
I'm not sure
Okay.
why I have an old version here, but
Thank you.
here we go. So the less advantageous, that was the first thing that I saw. So then if we go down a little bit further, we included the pest house is preserved as part of development as both a requirement and then, in terms of the acceptable and advantageous was the preservation of the pest house. We had, in the references, site visits and interviews on page 18, we included making sure that we received references from community members or neighbors of other projects that the company had carried out before. And you'll see in the advantageous section there, it says impacted community members were in support of projects. So basically just giving our neighbors the ability to hear from neighbors of this developer who developed another site, what the impact was for them locally. So, I feel like we've done a lot of work here.
What if
over
a developer,
the course of
just a
several
quick
months.
question.
Yeah.
What if a developer wants to come in and preserve the whole historic site?
I think that would be fine. I think, you mean in terms of, but not have housing in it?
No, so let's say a developer comes in and bids enough money to buy all 4 acres and just preserve the existing sites and redevelop them.
I think so long as
I
they
mean,
were
that
meeting the other requirements, that wouldn't be a problem in
I mean-
terms of the number of number of affordable units, following the, affordability guidelines. I think we have a limit of 3 buildings on the site, so, that, I don't see, I don't know if.
I mean, I
yeah.
just from what I'm thinking back, and I read the other RFP from last time, I mentioned this before, the 2 big things are A, money that supports the trust, and B, anything being advantageous that supports the existing site in its appearance as it is today.
So I guess the question is, if this hypothetical individual is looking to purchase, or are they looking to lease?
Buy it, or if they want to
Purchase
buy
would be a
it.
different.
Yeah, in terms of the procurement side of it, to add some clarity, so if the minimum criteria for this RFP are that they're an affordable housing developer with X amount of years of experience in development, similar in terms of track record. So to your question, I think a proposal that proposes no housing whatsoever.
No, I didn't say that.
Okay.
So if you go back to when the last RFP was written, and when the goal was to try and maintain the open space completely and get money, it lost in money to a disadvantageous bid, which wound up being Pulte. So what if someone comes in and bids hypothetically $5 million, and I want to buy the whole piece of property and preserve the historic significance of it, redevelop the existing sites?
I think that's a
and the
separate
open space
question,
of it?
because this is an RFP for a lease, and it's not like a bid to sale. So I think if somebody came in with that, then we'd have to probably meet as the trustees to consider if that was something that we'd be interested in. But I don't think that would,
Okay.
because it's a
Would the
ground
RFP
lease.
automatically exclude something like that?
It right now excludes a purchase because it's saying it's offered as a lease. It's being invitation for a lease. That language, it could obviously be adjusted.
Okay.
I think
That answers enough for me. That's good.
Okay.
But if I may,
Go ahead. No, I'm fine. I'm just.
No, Richard, I think it's encouraged that, it's specifically encouraged because it said the trust would also like the developer to honor the property's history as
There you
a
go.
working poor form, which means considering imitating existing or former buildings. So that's actually encouraged in this RFP, imitating the existing or former buildings there. So that's really encouraged in the development objectives right in the RFP.
Okay.
Yeah, and
You've
we use that word.
answered that for me.
We use that word imitating very specifically because it doesn't have the same it doesn't require it to be replicated in exactly, but in the same style. But if you kept the same house, obviously that would fit.
And also the pest house is specifically
Right, I knew
to
that.
be
And
included.
I
yeah.
agree. I thought, for what we've done, we should do that.
Right. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Roxanne.
Thanks. Could this also be a long-term lease for another kind of entity that does the preservation of the pest house and does some other features.
But not if it's not affordable housing. I mean, if it's not a house, you're talking about somebody that leased the land to just keep up the historic property, but not to build housing on
I'm
it?
just thinking if somebody like rehabbed those existing things or something and made them, rented them out for affordable housing or something, that could also, correct?
As long as they're hitting the criteria that are laid out in the RFP in terms of, the affordability, the percentage of units that are affordable and where they're affordable at, I don't see why not. Just a comment is most developers are probably going to want to put more units on the land to make it more profitable. But I think we could weigh what we wanted to weigh when we saw the RFPs come in, or when we saw the proposals come in. I don't know if Tom or Julie want to add on. Okay. Apparently I'm doing all right. I should give Tom a big hook for me if he needs.
Ben, do you want to walk through it more, or do you want to go to comments and questions?
I think we can go to comments and questions. I mean, it's a pretty big document. We've looked at various versions of it, so none of it should be a big surprise. But I'm happy to field more questions and reserve the right to bring up people who know more than I do.
Comments or questions? Ms. Musto.
Sure. A couple of comments, questions. First of which is, and I've asked this before, and I sent this to town council. I was out all day, so I didn't have an opportunity to really check my email, but very quickly. So I'd asked for a couple of questions that I think are very relevant to how we proceed. I think legally, I think we need to know that, especially given that we had somebody come in tonight, representing some of the neighbors. So the questions I have to be answered, and I've sent them in writing. I think, Nick, you have a copy of them as well, but I will state them here. Is in the event that the trust is sued, who is our legal representation for that matter?
We have that as another
Right,
item.
so I see that on the item right there on the agenda.
Okay.
It's right on there.
So I think, well, then I would suggest that these are a lot of legal questions, so I'm wondering if we should talk about that as well. Before we do any kind of voting on this, I think it's important that we understand the legal implications. The other thing I would say is, and I want to back up for a minute, how it works now is that the income that's generated from the balance in the account of the 5.35 million is what we spend yearly on really great causes for the poor of Milton. So my question is, right now we're doing, I think, a pretty good job about that. If we spend the money for good causes. So I'm going to back up for a minute. Why at this point are we doing anything at all with the land? Is my question, number one. And number two, I'm a little concerned that we have had, and we've talked about this before, there have been meetings with the Attorney General's office where we've brought in, this is a trust, and we've brought in members of our Affordable Housing Trust into a meeting with the AG's office. And I'm concerned as a trustee because, you're representing the board, but I'm a member of this as a trustee, and I've never been on any of those meetings, yet we have somebody else who's trying to find out if we can do affordable housing that's representing the Affordable Housing Trust at a meeting, and I'm concerned about that.
Okay. So I'm not sure what the concern is. I mean, there were prior occasions where, to provide substantive support, I believe, there were a member of the Affordable Housing Trust because they were helping with the RFP, that they were included. I don't believe they were included with the last meeting we had with the Attorney General's office. I don't think they did. I don't think they were. And you received, from Town Council, a summary of what that meeting was. So, and you're free to talk to Town Council about what that was as well. So I'm not sure what the concern is on that. In terms of the request to move to item 4.
I don't have a problem with it.
If there's no objection, we can go to item 4 first before we take action. Yes, Mrs. Hall.
I wanted to address one other question that Ms. Musto raised, which is why use the land. I think it's a question that we can easily answer. The town has been in deficit for ever since the affordable housing law was passed in the Commonwealth. We're still very far in deficit. Right now, the way that that deficit is being made up is by developers coming in and telling us what they're going to do in terms of creating affordable housing. This is an opportunity, as the Attorney General has agreed with us, to use the land in a purpose that is consistent with the will of the trust. And it is a purpose that will not only benefit the poor of Milton, but also help us get towards the threshold that we need to get to for affordable housing, which will, I think, make everyone happier when we finally hit that threshold and we no longer live under the threat of 40Bs popping up behind people's homes. So I think there's a pretty clear rationale for why we would use the land instead of letting it sit. So that would be my response to that. And I'm happy to move to item 4.
Yeah, I will say that our obligation as the trustees is to use that land for the best purposes for the benefit of the poor, in our judgment. What our judgment is the best purposes for the poor of Milton. And to not use it at all, seems to me, one could argue, and I would argue, is not to use it for the best purpose for the benefit of the poor of Milton, and so that this is one way to use it for the best purpose for the poor of Milton. But go ahead, Ms. Musto.
Thank you. By definition, we've been told that the affordable housing is no more than a 70% Milton preference. And in fact, that RFP has nothing even about that in there. So my concern is, again, it's for the poor of Milton. We've talked about this a zillion times. My concern is that this does not really exactly meet that criteria. But I'm happy to go on to the next thing.
All right.
I'm happy to go on.
Ms. Bradley?
Yeah, I guess I don't understand that point. Because if people move into these buildings and they are residents of Milton, so they're for the town of Milton.
No, I get it in that.
I know, which I understand.
I get it.
I'm just trying to say that when those people move in, they are then our neighbors and they are then our residents.
I'm talking about the people that are
we
here.
We don't
though,
want
right.
people to move in?
I'm talking about the people that live here.
Right, right.
That,
I just want to make sure
that could
we're
get affordable
understanding
housing because there is a need. And then the flip side, I would say, is that I hear what Mr. Zoll's saying about affordable housing. I'm not convinced this is the right location for that. Certainly, affordable housing is a worthy cause. I just don't think this is the location for that.
Sure. Maybe just, if I can, just to put a cap on this before we go to 4. The will states that the select board are the arbiters of the best use of the land. So if we decide that this is the best use of the land, then by the letter of the will, we're fulfilling that duty. So it's really just it's incumbent upon us to have a discussion about what the best use of the land is, and if we decide one way or the other, then I think that's all she wrote as far as
I think the exchange is great. Just let's try to keep
Yes.
it going through because it's easier to kind of navigate it through the chair.
Please.
If we could do that. If there's no objection, we'll go to item 4, which is the questions on the Governor Stoughton Trust Legal Counsel. And I believe Mr. Mello might be available. He is here. Oh, wonderful. All right. So item 4 is.
You act like you won the lottery. Oh,
Well,
wonderful.
I know.
What are you doing?
I didn't realize. It's the small things, Richard. It's really the small.
God.
It's the small victories that I look for. All right. So Mr. Mello is here, and so comments or questions on item 4, Ms. Musto.
Yes, I have several questions. Would it be better for me to ask them one at a time to Mr. Mello?
One at a time, I think, is a good idea.
Okay, thank you. First question I have is, in the event that the trust is sued, who is our legal representation for that matter?
So thanks, Ms. Musto. I got a series of questions on Sunday that I have provided an initial response. My understanding is I'm still in the process of getting my bearings with how this has been treated historically, and I don't want to. I want to confirm I'm not missing anything. There's probably a few details to confirm, but my understanding is that the way that the town's always treated this is that it's been treated like any public body of the town. So we obviously represent town bodies in connection with, the legal questions that they have and legal disputes and proceedings in which they're parties. So that's sort of my initial take on it, but obviously I want to make sure that having just come into this, that I'm not missing anything, and I want to kind of have the benefit of clarifying and pinning down some details before providing, more fulsome responses to some of the specific questions that have been raised around this issue, rightly so.
Ms. Musto.
Thank you. I would like to know, so if in fact the Attorney Mello is representing us, if something comes to fruition, who pays for the legal fees in this type of matter? Is it the town or the trust that will get the bill?
Again, so I understand you're asking these specific questions, Ms. Musto, and I think they're appropriate questions, and they should be addressed. But I'm trying to examine what's happened historically. My understanding, again, is that the town's covered the trust's legal bills where we've provided services for the trust, that the town's paid that. I have no reason. I'm not familiar with an example historically where that's not. But again, I don't. We need to pin down some of these details. Ultimately, I don't want to misspeak, and I don't want to provide information that's inconsistent with what's happened historically. But I think, again, this trust entity has been treated like any public body of the town, where we provided legal services in connection with questions that the trust has posed or legal work for the trust. The town's paid those. That's my understanding. But I want to be able to pin that down and confirm that with certitude.
Thank you.
Mr. Wells might have. You want to let her?
I just had a follow-up, and then you can go right. You
Go
can
ahead,
have
no,
that.
go ahead.
My follow-up, though, is, at least from my recollection, we've never had any litigation, though, involving
No,
the governor's
but
stone, right?
in terms, certainly in Pulte, there was a lot of
Right,
there was a lot of
right, there
legal
was all
work,
legal
and it
work,
was
but
all
we
paid
never
for.
had any litigation,
It was
right.
all paid
And
for
I'm
by the
thinking of
town.
Pulte, right?
Yeah, it was all
I'm
paid
thinking
for
of
by the
Pulte.
town,
I'm thinking
so.
of that. I'm sorry. I'm fine, Mr.
That's
Chair.
fine.
I would have forgotten, and then I wouldn't have asked it. So.
Another question would be, could you be sued individually as a trustee of the trust? And if so, are we covered by indemnity insurance? And it sounds like, Attorney Mello, that your group would be representing us.
Right. Again, I'm going to go back to what I said initially, and I responded. I provided an initial written response to this, and again, these questions came in Sunday night. I still have to speak with the town's insurer to, there's obviously a lot of scenarios and a lot of circumstances that could arise. Again, I think that if the trust were sued like any other public body of the town, and I don't know how the insurer would treat it. I don't know if there's been an instance in the past where the town's insurer has had any occasion to address the question, but I think it would be covered. I think that the representation would be covered just as it would with respect to any other dispute involving a town body.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Wells.
Mr. Milano, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I do believe any litigation of that nature is covered under Meyer. Am I correct? Yes.
Yeah, our practice would be to submit the claim to Meyer.
All right.
That's our understanding is what would happen in this case.
Ms. Musto.
Thank you. So I appreciate your comments, Mr. Mello, and I do apologize for getting this information too late, and appreciate that you're looking into it. I did mention some of these things at previous meetings, though, and I'd hoped that, I wouldn't have to send them out at the, 9th hour, basically, so I do apologize for that. I do think it's important that we understand what the liability is from being a trustee, because we do have a fiduciary responsibility, and we do actually now know that somebody showed up today who was representing the neighbors, an attorney. So I do think these are important questions, and as you're looking at this now, you'd have no idea, I guess, on how much you could expect to expend on representing some kind of a claim like this. some kind of a lawsuit that would ensue potentially. So I just think we have to be responsible as trustees, that we do have a fiduciary responsibility, and I would be concerned if we would be depleting the fund at all for litigation, and I'd be concerned to know how much the town would end up defending a claim. So I would want to know that. Thank you.
So I would just say, based on the prior history of the primarily Pulte and certainly since I've been on the board, any legal work has been done by town council and has been paid for by the town, which is consistent with the will because it's land that is given to the town, and the Board of Selectmen in the will is appointed in their roles as select board members. So we have public land owned by the town, and our roles are as selectmen under the will. The trust is that we control this property in our roles as select board members. So that's certainly consistent with the idea that which has happened in the past, which is that the town would be responsible for the legal fees, and our town insurer would pay if there are any issues that arose. As for any claims, I'm not aware of any claims that could or would or might be made, but that's really kind of an unknowable, really, what that could be. Other comments or questions?
I'd be prepared to go back to item 2.
Anything else on item 4? All right, back to item 2. Item 2. So any other comments or questions on item 2, which is the request for proposal? Ms. Bradley?
Yeah, I'm getting to it. So I would like to make a picture my. You're welcome, Sean. I would like to make a motion to approve the RFP regarding the Affordable Housing Trust at the Town Farm to be approved, to be sent out. Is that right?
I will second.
Motion's been made and seconded.
Public comment?
Yes, sorry. Further comments or questions? Bit of a quick brain lock there. Mr. Wells?
So I guess I'll make comment before I vote. So I appreciate the work that the Affordable Housing Trust has done on this. I've been aware of this since I was a member of the HT 7 years ago, but I will be voting no. Not that I'm against an affordable project. I just don't think, I agree, I don't think this is the right place for it. I think the neighbors have, there's some legitimate concerns, and to the point that was brought up earlier, the 70-30, I understand Ms. Musto's comments, because I believe what she's trying to say is that if we could vote to give it 100% resident preference, I think this board would probably do that, but the law does not allow it. But I just don't think it's the right thing in the right location for this, and that's my thoughts on that.
Other comments or questions? Mr. Zoll.
I'll obviously be, thank you, Mr. Chair, I'll obviously be voting in favor of it. I just think that this is great progress for the town. I'm excited that we're getting closer to the threshold where we'll be a community in compliance with our affordable housing obligations as defined by the Commonwealth. I am also excited the fact that this development will be family friendly. As we know, most of the great proportion of the affordable housing in town is not friendly to anyone with children, and so this is a really great progress. I think that the changes that have been made to the RFP in response to the thoughtful comments of the residents have answered some of the questions. I think some people are going to they're not going to want to have a project like this next to their house. Lots of folks in Milton have 40Bs that are going up next to their house, and they have no say over the process. And in this instance, we have maintained control and oversight. And I think that's something to be celebrated. So I'm looking forward to voting yes on this, Mr. Chair.
Other comments or questions? So I will say this is something, as Mr. Wells pointed out, that's been considered and thought about for years. This specific proposal is one that we first looked at in June, and then in August, and September, October, and now in November, and with considerable feedback from our public hearing and from the Affordable Housing Trust. With respect to whether it's the right place, it's really the only place. It's the only land that the Governor Stoughton Trust has, and for too long we have not utilized this asset at all for the benefit of the poor. And this is a way that, as we've said, has been considered for a long time to utilize this asset for the benefit of the poor, which is our charge. And we're not doing that now, and so it is my hope that we will start to do that. So, other comments or questions?
Just
oh,
one
Mr.
more,
Mr. Wells.
Just one more
Mr. Wells.
point, and I know Mr. Zola's new here. I think we have to give some credit to some of the prior developers, particularly Northwoods, who really did some significantly unique work to find single-family homes for affordable units throughout the town, even when the Attorney General's office and the state tried to make them limited to a certain section of town. Northwoods was aggressive enough to push to spread those units to all areas of town, including East Milton. And that was an innovative approach which he took on multiple occasions, and I just don't want that to be lost. And I believe that both Mr. Callahan and Ms. Kramer are fully aware that he took those efforts in both of his projects that he's done here. And there may even be more than that, but he's the one who jumps to mind right away when I think of how he approached his affordable units.
I think that's right. And I thought you were going to mention prior board members who have worked on
this.
Yeah.
I could do that too. I could do that too.
Including
Ms. Conlon?
Ms. Melinda Collins.
And Melinda Collins, yes. Both.
Ms. Conlon, yes. Ms. Conlon.
I believe Ms. Conlon sits on the Affordable Housing Trust.
She does.
Now, correct?
She's with us tonight.
You watching, Katie?
She's with us tonight.
She'll text me.
So Ms. Conlon and certainly Ms. Collins have worked over the years towards utilizing this asset and trying to use it. And so certainly we thank them for their efforts. And also, as Mr. Wells mentioned, we thank all the efforts that have been made in affordable housing by some of the private interests as well. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right. All right, item 3 is, that's 3-2 vote. Item 3-2 in favor. Item 3 is discussion approval of Governor Stoughton Trust assets, financials, use of trust assets. Mr. Milano.
Thanks. Mr. Zoll had a question about kind of how the assets were being used at our last meeting. So I just wanted to mention 2 things. First is that I didn't have a history in front of me last time, so I did just pull a little bit of history. So fiscal 21 to present, the trust has earned $484,000 and expended $350,000. There was a loss in fiscal 22. This is a trust that's invested. There was a loss that year of $44,000, but the other 3 years have been solid. $35,000 was earned between July 1 and September 30th of this fiscal year. So in terms of, and then that's kind of what the income has been earning, or the main assets have been earning. And then, as we discussed a little bit, there is the $5 million purchase price from Pulte, and then the $350,000 payment for the easement over the existing town farm property now. We have historically treated both of those as endowment funds, and speaking with Attorney Mello today, it's something worth probably looking into further about whether $350,000 should be part of the $5 million endowment or could be treated as income earned by the trust. The court documents related to the sale of Pulte only contemplate the $5 million purchase price. But that's been our historical approach, is that the trust can't spend anything below $5.35 million. And so presently we have about $100,000 over that, plus additional income to earn over the rest of this year. So happy to take any questions and provide additional information if helpful.
Comments or questions, Mr. Zoll?
Yes, I'm trying to get my brain around the numbers without looking at them. So currently we're treating it as basically like a 5.3 something endowment. And that endowment earns an income, hopefully if the market is not. And then we can, we spend a percentage of the earned income, not the entire, so that the endowment grows a little bit.
Well, we'll come close to spending almost all of it in 1 or 2 years.
Okay.
Yep. The past few years, the trust has spent basically all that it has brought in.
Okay. All right. Thank you. That's
And
helpful.
COVID kind of really,
Yes.
not exacerbated, but it kind of drove the need much to the forefront than it ever had been before.
I would be in favor of us thinking about moving the $350K into more of a current use account, maybe with like a window of like a 5-year spend down or something like that. I feel like that could be.
I think you're going to have to consult. I know with prior boards we've talked about this. The fact that it's municipally controlled, for me, like as a Copeland trustee,
right.
The way we handle our money is much different than how because we're far more restricted. It's far more restrictive on the government side than it would be for, say, a private entity that you might be involved in or someone. So I think I'm okay with that, but I think you may want to. That'll involve a sidebar discussion with,
for sure.
with
yeah,
town
I think,
council.
as we're talking about
town treasurer.
Ms. Musto.
I think the other issue that we should also consider is that based on that large amount of money, that's what's generating the interest that we get. And so if we diminish that, what will be the net effect, over a couple of years? So I think that is something to consider because the needs obviously seem to go up over time. And so I think anything that's going to diminish what we can, spend, I think could be potentially an issue.
Mr. Zoll.
Yeah, and I thank Ms. Musto and Mr. Wells for their comments. I think that's a good point. There's a couple of different ways to think about how we could potentially allocate if we decided to do that, the remaining 350. One could be that we decide that we're going to take money out of that instead of out of the endowment for a couple of years, allowing the endowment to grow a little bit, spend down the 350, and then when we go back to relying on the endowment, there's more money there because it's earned income. So in other words, you say like we're going to spend $350,000, of current use of that money, leave the $5 million untouched, let it grow over a year or two as we spend that money down, and then the endowment's grown, and so the annual payout becomes a little bit greater at that point. That could help. Another idea might be putting, a portion of the 350 in like a rainy day fund, where if there was a tragic event like a tornado or some sort of act of God, we would have ready access to monies that could potentially help the community. That instead of having it sitting in sort of spending out that percentage. Just a couple of thoughts. I just kind of spitballing. I mean, I do philanthropy for a living, and I like to think creatively about money. So, those are my thoughts.
Ms.
sorry.
Musto.
Go ahead.
Oh, Mr. Wells.
So I agree. Because I know that we did have this discussion. So I think it was just Katie, David, and I believe it was my first year when the money came in. And that's where I first learned, because I came in with a completely private mindset to like, okay, we should start to, and then realized very quickly. But so are you thinking along the lines of like take that and not spend the whole 350 in a year?
Correct.
And so make the 350 your operating money that you say take, and I'm just using hypotheticals. So say you put 50 in like a capital statement, like a slush fund for an emergency, like an RFT, a reserve fund, reserve fund. Work off the 300 and want that 300 to last for what, a couple of years? Try to put a 2-year window in that, or 2 or 3 years to work?
For 2 years?
I think it would last for 2. If we were just funding wouldn't you agree that the primary needs that were?
Not based on, I mean, the last couple of years, last year was 120,000 to Milton Residence Fund alone, another 58 to the food pantry. So that's, I mean, you're over $150,000 on 2 entities there. And you heard Noreen's comments in their last presentation looking for close to 130 or 140 for calendar year 24. So I think looking at what it's bringing in versus what we're expending, we're pretty much hitting it. And we have a year where we don't have great investment income.
I agree.
Off that, then there's not any money there really to spend. So
I want to make a suggestion, if that's all right with you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, please, Mr. Yeah.
Maybe, and you don't have to say yes, either one of you. I think maybe Mr. Zoll and Ms. Dorner maybe have like a side meeting with, I don't know if they do it together, probably individually, one with Noreen and then one with Pat, and kind of paint a picture for them, which is more long-term than, because one of the things, I mean, you've been here almost as long as I have, they come each year, and we kind of, and it's kind of how they work. And for most of my life, before being on this board, what they got from here was minuscule. I mean, like five each. You know, maybe it wasn't a lot of money. It wasn't, particularly prior to the $5 million. It was like not a lot of money at all. So I'm thinking that it might be strategic to maybe have that side. So the other one kind of, this, I know where you're going with it. I get it. I'm kind of, and that's my apology. I should have moved him. I should have asked you to move Dick up. I just saw him in the back now.
Oh, well, we can move him up. We can move him up after this.
He's right there. He hasn't left yet.
Oh, Dick.
Hold on.
Just walk away.
I'm going to step away for a second.
All right, yeah, please. Ms. Mustang.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Oh,
have
you're
questions.
okay. Oh,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
all
So I'll just respond quick and give Richard a minute to go out and grab. So I think that's a great suggestion. I'm happy to have a conversation about it. I don't have strong feelings about this. I just think it's worth exploring ways that we can think about making this money more resilient. And then, you know, in the instance where we do have a market downturn, that's often the years where the money is most needed. And so how could we potentially set up a contingency fund that could step in that kind of time of need? But I'm happy to meet offline about this and come back with some suggestions, and maybe Mr. Milano and I can tackle those.
And then we just need to confirm with town council that the 350 isn't considered part of the corpus, and it is considered, because it's not mentioned in the Pulte Court decision. I mean, I think
That would
that's
be
the view. That,
the first question, I think.
That there is, because it's not restricted by the court decision, then perhaps there is flexibility there. So, okay, all right.
Sorry, I apologize.
All right.
I didn't even...
Anything further on item 3? All right, item 5 is discussion approval of meeting minutes from August 8th and September 19th, 2023.
Mr. Zoll?
Yeah, Ms. Musto,
Thank
please.
you. I'm trying to find them quickly because I did write a note, but of course I didn't bring them with me. So I'm not sure if it was from it's on page 2. I'm not sure if it's the 8th or the 19th. I just wanted to add one or two lines in.
Okay.
It would be with reference to the animal shelter.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's
No,
in
that's
here, but I
fine.
couldn't
I'm
find
trying
it
to-
quick enough. That's what I was trying to do.
So it's probably on the 8th, because the 19th was the public hearing.
Okay,
Yes.
so it would be page 2.
Yeah?
With reference to the animal shelter. I'm going to tell you what I would like to have added into it, and just see what you all think. I would like to add in, Ms. Musto raised concerns about possible cost overruns related to ledge and who would pay for the overruns. She also raised concerns about leaving $2.5 million towards this project on the table.
Can I ask, is it possible that that was in the minutes of the select board? Because I don't see a reference to the animal shelter in the Governor Stoughton minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes for that day. So is it possible that that's from the select board minutes?
I don't see it in
Oh, it's not on that one?
Because there's no reference to the animal shelter on page 2
And I
or
apologize.
anywhere.
I
No, it's
just
fine.
don't have it.
It's fine. It's fine. And but
It
we're
was
gonna.
definitely page 2, and it was,
Maybe it's the select board minutes, which we'll be doing later.
okay.
Because there's no mention of
Trying to
the
find it.
animal shelter in the Governor Stoughton minutes.
Okay, as long as it's not there, I tried to, and I apologize.
Here, let me just do a quick check. I can
I'm looking
check
at
to
the-
see in the.
I'm checking it now.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll check.
Then this would be the 19th, right? Yeah, there's a reference. There's a discussion of the animal shelter on page
Maybe I had the wrong page.
page 2
Page 2, okay.
of the it begins on page 1 and it goes on to page 2.
Yeah,
So
on
maybe
the
it's
19th.
On the 19th.
So I was right.
And that's the
Okay.
select board minutes, though.
Oh,
So
sorry. 'Cause
that's
I-
just,
oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I put it here because we also had the Governor Stoughton.
Okay.
That's why, sorry.
So we'll do that, we'll make that change in the select board minutes.
Thank you.
Got it, all right.
And can I just say
Yes,
one other
please,
thing?
yeah.
I just wanted to, it's just a comment.
Yep.
We've had several Governor Stoughton trustee meetings, and it seems like we've had a lot of them. And I know that the previous year when we had them, we had a separate dedicated meeting. I think it's a lot to have in the middle of our meeting, a Governor Stoughton meeting as well. And it seems like we've had a lot of frequent Governor Stoughton meetings. And so that I'm concerned about that because it makes our meetings much longer. There's a lot in our meetings, and we have this. I think it should be a dedicated, separate meeting. And I know that when Mr. Doyle was the chair, it was maybe 3 or 4 times a year. So I'm going to put a plug in for that too. I think that this is a lot on an agenda, and it's very often.
3 or 4 more meetings a year? I quit.
All right, so we're back to the minutes, item 5 of August 8th and September 19th.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes dated August 8th, 2023, and September 19th, 2023.
Second.
Motion been made and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, item 6.
I'll make a
Adjourn.
motion.
Oh, sorry.
I beat you to the punch.
Second.
Gonna make a motion to adjourn the meeting of the
Second.
Governor's.
Motion's been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, returning to the select board meeting, we're at item 5, but...
Motion to adjourn?
But do we want to move up the...
No, you don't have to, no.
Okay,
No, go ahead.
all right.
Did he leave?
All right. Item 5 is discussion approval letter to Mass DOT regarding a proposed project at the intersection of Randolph Avenue and Chickatobit. And I believe this is Mr. Milano.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Chair. I just tried to capture kind of the bigger picture statements Mass DOT made in the meeting to just confirm our understanding of those comments, namely that the proposed project at Randolph Ave and Chickatobit is currently paused, not advertised for construction, that in the short term they're looking at some signal timing and other pattern changes that they may be able to make in the short term. And then more long term that they are working on the Route 28 corridor study. I'll note that a road safety audit was conducted with representatives from Mass DOT, our town departments, Howard Stein Hudson, their consultant, DCR was there. I think the transit authorities were represented, so it's a big crowd.
Everybody
you saw them
was
walking
there.
down
I was there.
Randolph
Everybody
and anybody.
and they were in Blute for a long 5-hour meeting. So that work is all underway. I did put into the letter a couple follow-up questions. We've been trying to figure out when their MEPA review process will start without getting a clear answer on that yet. Ms. Musto has been requesting information on the data used in the functional design report on the intersection project. I did follow up with Mass DOT on that directly. Still haven't gotten anything back yet. And then on the Route 28 corridor study, there's an explicit ask here for an opportunity for public comment and that MassDOT hold a public meeting about the corridor study. I don't think we want to be in a position where Mass DOT releases the results of the corridor study and says, hey, here are the results, read them. I think they need to provide an opportunity for a public meeting. And to our knowledge, they don't have one planned or scheduled. They may have that in the pipeline, but it hasn't been confirmed yet, so it's just something that I put in there as an ask, because I think that's an important component of that work. And then obviously, thanks for their time and coming out to Milton. So that's the summary of what the letter proposes.
Comments or questions, Mr. Wells?
Question. So it was, I was coming out of a meeting and it was like the biggest, it was like a green, Chase was, it was a lime green convention. I looked, I'm like, what the heck happened? They were actually on the front lawn of the Copeland offices, and I'm like, but Mike, can I ask a question? This is, and it's not public comment response, but it's more to what Mr. Jackson was talking about. What was he talking? Is that something that you talked about in the meeting when I was? So was he referring to potentially looking at like the dump road, that area?
Referring to there's 6 acres on Randolph Ave.
Okay,
that were
so it's
part
around
of
the dump
land
road he's
swap.
talking about.
Yeah,
Okay.
in that general area.
But you didn't talk about this, the meeting when I was like driving in the car, when you came back and I called in.
That was
the
not
day that
this
you
No.
took
No,
the.
no. This is
That was-
not
Because I was on
something-
that call too.
No.
No, there's no, that was part of the land swap, so
Okay.
I'm not sure
No.
how that would work. But
That's my only question. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Other comments or questions? Mr. Zoll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Nick, just a quick edit. You're missing a question mark after the
He's a weird
road.
Okay. Weird
So
to me.
if we're asking questions, we should have question marks.
That's fine.
And then just, sorry to be that guy. Then,
You're the one with the red pen in your hand over there.
I know, right?
What are you doing with the red pen? You ready to adjourn?
On the, I think you're exactly right about the opportunity for public comment. I think that a public meeting following the completion of the draft report, I think it should be required, honestly. I mean, I think it's great to offer people a comment during the study, but I think after the study, having them walk through what the study does, because I think, as you alluded to, they could just dump it in our laps and say, good luck, and it's 200 pages and we don't know how to sort the data. Not that they will do that, but it's, it could be feasible. So I would be amenable to changing the, would be helpful for further review and public comment. I think we probably need something that's a little stronger there. Sure. Following completion of the draft report will be necessary for further review, would be my suggestion. Instead of would be helpful, it will be necessary.
Okay. Mr. Chair, would it be all right if we brought the chase up for a second on this issue?
Sure.
Because I see Howard Stein has a long history with projects here in this town. I mean, the village, the square, is Howard Stein assigned to this? Is Howard Stein taking this on? Or how is Howard Stein are they being assigned this?
Yeah, so Howard Stein Hudson is the engineering firm Mass DOT hired to do the corridor study. So they're doing that in conjunction with the Randolph Ave and Chickatawba project.
So in answer to your question, historically, Howard Stein Hudson has been very good about, whenever we've asked, to come in and present. Like, very good. I couldn't see them just dumping in it and walking. I think they're too invested here. They've done so much work in this town over the years. And I didn't know they were going to be there. As I said to you, I'm like, Howard Stein, I didn't know they were on this. So, and I agree with you. I think, but how much time do we know how long they're going to take and how long they took to say they're going to do this?
It's due in the spring.
Okay. All right.
It's due in the spring. All right, other comments or questions on the letter? Ms. Musto?
No, sure. I'm wondering, do you think that with regards to the timing of the timing of lights, they had mentioned specifically Reed and Hillside. Do we need to put that in there? Just wondering if we should be more specific.
No, I think that's
all.
a good edit. I can roll that into it.
Because they did mention that themselves. And then also, I'm just wondering if we should put some other type of wording about that left turn signalization, because it looks like they're going to, I think what people were saying is, can you put the left turn signalization on? And the response was, we're going to look at that. It looks like one of the signals probably can do that. The other one we have to evaluate if we change the signal head to fit the structure that's there. So I'm wondering if we could sort of put something in about that, because the way I read it, it doesn't sound like we're really asking them to do that right now.
Sure.
So I have a proposed bullet on that point.
Okay.
And I would put it as the second bullet point, saying MassDOT will analyze usage of left-hand turn-only signals and striping left turn lanes.
So that's what all that writing's about over there, right?
That's what this writing's about. There's many other writings.
I think that covers it. And I did.
Is that, Renee, I mean,
yeah, no, I
Roxanne,
think
is that
that's
where you were
perfect. I
headed?
mean, I just wanted it to be more specific.
Sure.
So I think that's great. Thank you. And I do think that it's very important to have the public process on this whole thing. That's part of what had happened last time. They were at 25% design, and then they went right to 75% design. So we don't want to run into another situation like that. So I think, to Mr. Zoll's point, we do want to make it strongly worded that we, expect to have, a public process and a public meeting, or more than that, but at least at the minimum before they go gung-ho on whatever they want to do.
Other comments or questions? Or motions?
I'll make a motion to approve the letter as amended.
Second.
Yep.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you, Mr. Milano, for that. Mr. Berkeley is here. Should we move up his item? Is he?
He wants to go home.
Yeah.
Well, both this and stormwater, I think.
What's that?
The next item and then stormwater
Oh, the next,
Yeah, we'll go
next,
more
next
on
item as
DOT.
well. Okay, all right, so item 6 is discussion approval of the petition to the Massachusetts Department of Transportation to modify speed limit on Route 28 in accordance to MGL, Chapter 90, Section
I'll make that motion.
18. Well, just to set it up, just
Okay,
to set up.
for the purpose of discussion.
Yeah, it appears, well, so the motion's been made to approve. Motion been made and seconded. It appears that we have the opportunity to make such a petition. It could be a petition that is consistent with what town meeting voted a year and a half ago and what I believe Senator Timilty has currently pending with the legislature to change the speed limit on that road. Mr. Milano, you look like
Sure.
you're
No, I just
champing
wanted
at the
to.
bit.
So, what is unclear is quite how Mass DOT treats this process. We don't know what kind of information, if any, they need or want from communities that are petitioning them. I think if the board is interested in that, I think certainly have a vote tonight. We'll follow up with MassDOT, get that process started. But what that actually means is a little unclear. And then in terms of Senator Timilty's, in terms of the home rule petition that Senator Timilty has filed on behalf of the town, that's 25 miles an hour, and it says in the approaches to Chickatobit Road. So it's not, again, in terms of what MassDOT might be looking for, that doesn't quite specify a geographical area. The new statute allows for a town to ask for a state highway in its geographical areas to be reduced in speed. But that's as much direction as they provide. So what that mile per hour should be, or what kind of information MassDOT may be looking for, is kind of unclear at this moment, but I just wanted to provide that context for the board.
Thank you, Mr. Milano. Mr. Wells.
That's all. I mean, we're basically asking for adaptation of fundamental speed law. Well, it kind of puts the ball in their lap as to what they think would be appropriate on a state road, which differs from what Senator Timilty's filed. But it does kind of send a message, which why I made the motion. It does send a message from us that we want them to look at it. I think it's smarter to let the experts decide on what they can safely, because one of the things, at least that I know, is it's very difficult to enforce speed there, particularly between Reed Street and Newcomb's, because it's just not safe to stop a car there for any reason. It's just very, very dangerous. There's no shoulders. It's tough. It's tough.
So just so I understand, are you suggesting that we petition MassDOT to modify the speed limit in their discretion?
Well, that's what
Or
that's
to
what
lower
I
the speed
believe that's
limit?
what the statute allows.
Yeah.
Kind of, we're asking them to look at it, conduct some analysis, and at least that's how I interpret it. I could be wrong, but that's my memory of it, and because I believe that's the section you're referring to in the Chapter 90s. Is it 9018, right?
Yes.
9018. That question, I think, was on the side in his test when I took it.
Other comments or questions, Ms. Musto?
Thank you. The other question I have is with regards, I know that's not in this article, so we're talking about State Highway, Route 138. Is that something that we could add onto another agenda for the same type of
Yes,
potential?
that was a type, we had it on there.
I
We
thought
meant
you
to
did,
take it
that's
off.
why,
Yes,
yeah.
no.
I thought it was
The
there.
intention was to talk
Okay.
about 28,
Right,
not
okay.
138
This
at
is
this time.
28, not 138.
This is 28.
Yes.
But
Yes.
it did say
Yeah.
1.138 as
It does.
well.
Yep.
But we can
The-
include that on the agenda, on a subsequent agenda.
Okay.
And I just wanted to clarify further
Yeah,
on
this is-
Section 18 is this, and this is what the change has been, Mr. Wells, is that upon approval of, the department has, if the select board submits a petition, Mass DOT's state traffic engineer has 90 days to approve it or deny it. If they don't act on it within the 90 days, the petition speed goes into effect. So the board in their petition has to request a specific speed
Specific
that they
speed.
think 28 should be set at, for example.
Right.
This is a recent change, so I'm not aware of how these have been acted upon or not by Mass DOT to date, because I think it only went into effect this calendar year.
So my question was, where did this originate? From you or from you? Or?
We received an email from, I believe, a resident notifying us of this, and the question is, do we want to pursue it? It's something we could table, or we can pursue it, Mr. Zoll.
I'm just curious, and you may not know this off the top of your head, Mr. Milano, but how often are cars pulled over for speeding in Milton? Because I can't remember the last time I saw Yeah, all right. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
I can get you some data on it. I
I'd
don't
be
have it on my
curious to know,
fingertips.
just because for me, it's, you know, if we change this or if we changed it dramatically, I'd be curious about enforcement. I'm mindful of the comment that we heard earlier about, you know, sort of the population that would be getting pulled over and making sure that we were keeping that in mind. And similarly, I'd also worry if we dramatically changed it, that you would have some people that weren't familiar with the fact that it got changed, and you could have a couple of weeks of pretty chaotic driving, which, you know, we always hope that people look at signs, but maybe people who are used to not looking at them might not look at them. So I'm not sure that I'm ready to vote on improving this.
Given that, I thought so I'm going to withdraw it.
Yeah.
I thought you had something you wanted to.
No,
it
no,
was
it's just
solid
really,
that you
really for
wanted to-
discussion. I mean, for two purposes. One, because town meeting took the action in May of '21, and two, because and that was not acted on by Governor Baker. It was vetoed by Governor Baker, and then right before he left office, and then Senator Timblety has filed it on his own to have that, and I believe it's a 25 mile an hour speed limit. So the question is it something that we want to pursue? Maybe something we may want to get more information on. We could ask our I don't want to put our DPW director on the spot to say, you know, is that something we should do? Would it be helpful on that road in your opinion? But
Yes, I
you
think
can
it
defer if you don't want to.
No, I'm happy to answer. Yes, I think it actually is a very good opportunity. Kind of up until this point where the statute was changed, MassDOT always cautioned when requesting speed zoning evaluations that the answer could be that you need to raise the speed limit.
Right.
And it's certainly not the outcome, you know, that we want to see here. If you're able to explicitly ask for a reduction in speed and they're willing to consider it, that's a kind of a no-lose situation. It's either a no or we'll reduce it. So, you know, the balance with speed zoning is always efficiency versus safety and trying to find that middle ground. And a lot of the times the way they do it is they take all the speed signs down and measure the data, and they look at the 85th percentile of, you know, how fast the 85% of the people drive on the road, and they pick the closest 5 mile an hour multiple.
So if they do it at 5 p.m.
So again, you're dealing with a road that has heavy volume some parts of the day and then very light volume in between, which can make it look like an open highway, and typically why you see such high speeds off hours. But
Mr. Wells.
You may remember in your younger days, the statewide slogan, 55 and stay alive. That's long gone. That 55 is now 65 and in some places 70.
I remember the slogan, it's not just a good idea, it's the law.
Yeah, that's right. So you're right. I mean, Chase is right. As soon as he said, when you talked about it, I started, I'm like, wow, this could go up instead of going down.
But now it's apparently the case that this board can petition for a specific amount. So, Mr. Zoll.
So I think we should get a little bit more info before we make the petition. I'd be curious to hear from Chief King about his thoughts about how this would be enforced, and what the impact would be. So if we could get that, and I think if other folks have other information they'd like to get and suggest. I'm not opposed to the concept. I just feel like we need a little bit more information on what the.
Is it Ms. Musto?
I agree, and I also would put a plug in for 138.
Yeah.
If you're going to talk to Chief King, we should ask him about both, because
Sure.
they're both state highways.
So does it make sense to table this to till the 28th, and then ask Chief King if he can come in on that day and speak to both of them, Mr. Berkeley as well?
I think the data is really the thing that's going to tell you, you know, if you do put some tubes down, start to take some, the data's going to open your eyes. And as far as like tolerance, as far as speed enforcement, I think today, like what you just said, they're way below. I mean, back in the days of the Northeastern study, I think they thought that back then that we were at a threshold of what they thought was reasonable, was like 400 citations a month was the number that they picked. And I think from a study we saw posted last year, it's nowhere near that today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, one benefit of this change is that this gives this board the opportunity to act in the way that town meeting sought to act enacted, which was vetoed by Governor Baker. So this would give this board the opportunity to take action on behalf.
What was
that was voted on by
what was
town
the
meeting.
town meeting? I don't, what
I believe
was
it was May 21. It was to authorize a home rule petition to reduce the speed limit to 25, and
on those two streets? Because we already are.
only on 28.
Only on 28. Okay.
Only on 28.
Because we are on every other.
And Governor Baker vetoed it without explanation on his last afternoon in office. I believe.
Yes.
I would
Yeah,
bet.
he did.
I would
No,
bet
he did.
MassDOT was away against that. I would.
We
think
found it
MassDOT was
stuck in his desk. Right?
It was a pocket feeder.
So all right. So
Oh,
we'll put this on for the 28th, and then.
Before we jump off of
yes.
DOT,
Oh,
I just wanted to,
Ms.
thank
Bradley.
you so much. Just wanted to say that the acting secretary has been made the real
Secretary.
secretary.
That's right.
So it was really nice to see that she came out and that she will still be the one that's heading this. So I just
Yes.
wanted to give that a nice little plug for her,
That's
and
good.
congratulations to her.
Yep. That's a good point.
Send some prayers. It's one tough job.
All right, so Mr. Berkeley is here, and I believe he wants to talk to us about stormwater. So if I can find it on the agenda.
Item 8.
Number 8.
Oh, is it? Oh, it's
Yeah,
way back.
number 8.
Oh, there it
First
is. It's right at the bottom of the page. All right, so item 8, discussion approval FY 2024 stormwater fees. Should we go right to Mr. Berkeley? Is that the way to go?
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Berkeley.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Chase Berkeley, DPW Director. So here tonight, requesting approval for our proposed FY24 stormwater utility rate. Just as a reminder, this is the stormwater enterprise budget revenue source. So we bill property owners in town for stormwater-specific costs that the town has. Unlike your gas bill, your electric bill, your water and sewer bill, there's no meter for stormwater. So the way that the costs are proportionalized across properties are based on the impervious surface in town. So the rate is a linear rate. It's just a division of the budget divided by how much impervious area there is in town, and then that's applied to each property, and one annual bill is sent. I think on the next slide up there, we have a breakdown of what the most common way we bill properties for single-family homes are by tier groups, rather than having to produce an individual bill for every property, which would be an administrative burden and just end up driving up costs. Single-family homes are grouped, so that the table up there shows the change in cost for the year from FY23 to FY24. It's overall a 4.5% rate increase, and that is pretty much due to increases in our debt service and salary and wages. Our expenses for the Stormwater Enterprise Fund were level funded from the previous year. So just to keep pace with the rising costs. Just one more slide on the back, just to demonstrate that we do try to be as fair as possible. So we're utilizing some of the newer technology, and this is a product we were tipped off to from the town of Easton, where we have access to flyovers of the town 4 times a year. So our GIS analyst, Alan Bishop, reviews those flyovers and updates our mapping and assessments to reflect the most current conditions, and tries to keep up with all the development and changes to be as fair as possible to all the residents. So, a lot of additions and construction work over the last couple of years in town, and keeping up with that. That's a very helpful tool, and it's relatively low cost for the value of it.
Mr. Berkeley, comments or
Mr. Chair,
questions?
if I could add
Oh,
two things.
Mr. Malone.
Just as a reminder on these utilities, just like water and sewer, all properties in town are subject to this. It's not just the residential and commercial, it's also the nonprofit institutions are also assessed for stormwater. And the other thing, Chase, if you would just describe what this does pay for on an annual basis. I think there's a lot of good services that come out of the stormwater utility that people should be aware of.
Sure, yeah, so essentially it's the operation and maintenance of the stormwater system, which are the pipes, the drains on the streets, and how that water, when it rains out, gets conveyed to the water bodies in town. On top of that, it's things like street sweeping. One of the biggest costs is the collection and disposal of the yard waste in town. So to remove those leaves and organic material off the streets, which are the number one cloggers of drains, and also produce nutrients that cause issues in the receiving waters, like nutrients like phosphorus that cause problems for those sensitive ecological areas. So stormwater yard waste is a valid cost to be expensed to the stormwater utility. It's about $400,000 of the 650 in the expense budget. So, but we have a lot of leaves here in Milton. As if you look out your window right now,
count the numbers of bags in front of every house.
Oh, that's bad.
Comments or questions?
Do you want a motion? Do you want to? Are we?
Sure.
So I'll make a motion to approve the FY 2024 stormwater fees as recommended by the DPW director.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mr. Berkeley.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chase.
Back to item 7, which is a discussion approval contract with PMA Consultants as the owner's project manager for the new school project. Do we have Mr.?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to
okay.
approve the contract with PMA Consultants as the OPM for the new school project.
A second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion?
That way if Sean's here, he can just go back, turn off and keep going.
I don't know that he's here.
All right.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See, my return is moving along.
Yeah, it
Putting you
is.
back.
It is. Did you say aye on that one?
I did say aye,
Unanimous.
yes, I
All
said
right,
yes.
unanimous.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, it is moving things along. Thank you for that. Item 9, discussion update approval special town meeting December 4th, 2023 warrant articles. Do we have anything here, Mr. Milano?
No updates from me, Mr. Chair, only that the warrant is available on the town website now. It was dropped to the post office last night, so it should be arriving
Mine
in town meeting
came
member.
today.
Mine
And
came
was-
today,
and mine was in
too.
the mailbox today.
Okay, that's pretty good. So people should be seeing them now, apparently. And so
Unless you delivered it.
so that's good news that they're getting out there. We have plenty of copies available in our office. Anybody wants a hard copy and doesn't want to print it themselves.
Any comments or questions on the articles?
Do we need a vote?
No? No? All right. Item 10, discussion approval, Select Board Finance Committee report. Ms. Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Select Board Finance Committee met on the 9th of this month. We met specifically to talk about the ARPA funding and kind of where we're at with that. We have currently expended all the funds. All the funds have been allocated from the county ARPA bucket, but we still have about $420,000 unallocated from the other bucket. Am I saying that right?
Yep, the treasury that we got directly.
And so we had 2 people come before us. The broadband committee came before us to talk about detailed network design, which is kind of where they're at right now. It's really exciting. I can't wait for it to get to our homes. And they asked for $40,000, but it should have been $48,000. And so Mr. Zoll and I are recommending to the Select Board that we appropriate $48,000 to the broadband committee. And then we also had...
You mean to fund the to be directed to the broadband committee?
Broadband committee, yep.
Is that a motion? Motion?
It can be.
Second.
Well, it's to fund the consultant.
The consultant
to develop a plan.
to develop a plan.
I'll second that.
Okay.
Motion's been made and seconded. We do have Mr. Lynch here from the Broadband Committee, but perhaps we don't need him. Any further discussion? Mr. Zoll.
I might just add that the ARPA bill specifically talks about funding for broadband access. So it, I think makes a ton of sense.
Absolutely.
So and just embellish it just a bit. The Broadband Committee, we have now the project moving forward to replace the iNet in town. This is a project to connect all the homes. It would be fiber to the home. But the only way to develop a plan for fiber to the home is to have a consultant help you do it. It takes a lot of different forms. One form is that residents would decide to pay for it, and then the town could bond it, and then the town would have its own broadband. It would be an open network, and the goal would be to reduce fees significantly. So,
And they
that's
did
the-
receive 2 bids on this.
Yes.
So it's not just one person.
And this was significantly less
Yes.
than the one bid was significantly less than the first. So,
Okay.
all right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous.
Okay, the second thing that came in to talk to us was the school department. It was mainly around buses. All of the elementary school right now currently have a bus. The middle and high school, though, there are 120 kids on the wait list for a bus. They can get about 46 kids on a bus, and each bus does 3 runs. So it's really, I had no idea that this was part of Dr. Pavlicek's job, but he plans the routes, and it's yeoman's work. So, so with this, we could actually, with getting another bus, we could actually kind of change some of the routes around so that kids aren't having to be picked up so early. You know, those that are out on like Unquity Road, I think he said was one, and then East Milton.
Yeah.
So those 2 sections of town are really hard to get the kids in. So for the rest of this year, it's a $55,000 ask for fiscal year '24, and then that's all we're asking for now, and we'll see about next year and the ask for that.
So I heard it was 80, it's only 55?
So for a full year, it's $85,000 for a full
for
year
a
for
bus,
a bus, but because we're not doing a full year, it's only $55,000. And again, we do have 420 unallocated.
I was going to make a motion, but I'll let you.
No, I just want to
you a
ask,
question.
will this get all of the 120 kids off the waiting list?
No.
Not all of them, but it'll do
A big chunk.
particularly in East Milton, I think, which is
Yeah.
has the biggest backlog.
Okay.
And it's really hard for them to get to it's not an easy route to get to the high school and the middle school. It's it's dangerous.
Okay. I guess fully support this. I guess the question is there a way to get all the kids
2
off the
buses.
wait, all the kids off the
So why not
waiting?
get a second bus?
They didn't make that ask.
They didn't
either.
make that ask.
Yeah.
I mean, I completely agree with you, but
How are they going to decide who in the 120? What are they going to do, a
I
lottery?
think they do, it's geography also. They look to figure out where the most
Who's the
kids are.
farthest?
yeah.
Maybe Mr. Milano, you can reach out to the superintendent and tell him there is some thought on the select board to maybe going a little
Right.
further.
I can certainly do that.
Thank you. So for right now, can we? I just want to
Ms.
keep it to
Musto.
1.
Yeah,
right
well,
now.
no,
Okay.
yes, this is the motion.
Thank
So,
you.
Ms. Musto.
Okay, well, I'm fully supportive of the bus. I just have a couple questions about the bus. So this is for middle and high school, is that correct?
I didn't know
And
that.
so do we,
Well,
Not really.
it kind of. The way it's going to work is that it will be one bus. We're getting one bus because we have 120 kids on the wait list for middle and high school. But when they reconfigure the routes with this new bus, which they're going to have to do, it's possible that elementary kids that are in East Milton or out on Unquity Road will also be part of this change. Does
Each
that make
bus
sense?
runs 3 routes.
Yeah.
Right. I figured that when you said 3 routes, that
Yeah.
Yeah.
tells me that's more than
So it's
just
the
middle and high
elementary.
and then the middle?
So there may be
Yeah.
elementary kids that end up riding this bus, but they are probably already riding a bus.
And do people pay to have their kids ride the bus at certain ages?
So by
I know my
law-
kids did, so that's why I'm asking.
By law, we have to bus kids up to 6th grade.
Yeah.
By law. So
Right.
we cover all of that.
Yeah.
I have no idea if they charge for, you have.
They
little
definitely
kids.
charge because I pay.
All right,
It's
so
high
yes,
school,
we
right?
pay.
Is it in high school? It's high school, right? You pay?
High school and middle school,
Middle,
you
I
pay.
think, too,
Yeah.
'cause we used to pay.
Yeah, because then
Yeah.
we don't have that legal obligation.
Right.
So, yes, we do pay.
Okay, I was just curious.
So you said
So I support
45.
it, yeah.
For, 55 for,
I'll make a motion to fund the 55,000 to the Milton Public Schools for the
I'll
bus route.
second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Go on and kill me.
All
Call me,
right.
call. What did you do?
Item 11, OPEB policy, second reading.
Yeah.
Is this Ms.?
it's the same thing you
Really?
guys read when I was, vertigoing on my couch last week or 2 weeks ago. I don't think that there was any questions at that point. Mr. Milano, am I wrong on that? Was
Yes,
there-
that's, we updated the policy to reflect the fact that the pension system is fully funded and that we are going to allocate a minimum of $2.5 million going forward to those long-term liabilities, and it'll seesaw between both pension and OPEB, depending on what the needs are in that given year. For example, in fiscal '25, the retirement system, instead of funding scheduled that will allocate an additional $1 million to retirement, which will leave $1.5 million going to OPEB under this policy for at least the next 2 years until the funding schedule for the retirement system is revisited.
Right. And the retirement board had asked us for a type of policy like this.
And the amount, Mr. Milano, that has been going to the retirement fund is 4.5 million?
Correct.
So this would, if we adhere to this goal of 2.5 million, it would free up 2 million.
Correct.
Correct.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah.
Someone make a motion to approve the OPEB policy, period, that enough?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, item 12. Hold on. Item 12, discussion approval letter to the Environmental Protection Agency and the Mass Department of Environmental Protection regarding comments on draft permit number Mass 0103284. Mr.
What is that?
Milano.
Sure. So the MWRA is currently going through its permitting process for its discharge permit, its NIPDES permit. They have a draft permit from EPA and Mass DEP currently. The MWRA Advisory Board, as well as MWRA, are sending in comments on that draft permit. They've asked communities to sign on to a comment letter because of two particular issues. And the main one for Milton's perspective is that going forward, EPA and Mass DEP want all of the MWRA communities to be co-permittees. So the concern from the advisory board's perspective is, well, that would make the town of Milton liable for the actions of the MWRA, over which we have no control. So rather than the MWRA be the permittee, MWRA, Milton, Boston, and so on would all be co-permittees on this and could be held liable for certain actions of each other and of the MWRA. So it's an issue that the advisory board has flagged. They're asking folks to sign up to comment letters for. So we have a draft comment letter, but the advisory board is working on further changes to theirs, and they'll be discussing that on a meeting on Thursday. DPW Director Berkeley will be going to that meeting, so more updates to come, but I just wanted to provide that update now, and we'll be looking to submit a letter with comments probably at our next meeting.
Okay. All right, so no
No
action
action
on
tonight.
that. So we'll defer any comments or questions on item 12. Seeing none, item 13, discussion, update approval, Milton Landing Committee, and we have 4 sub-items. First is the Select Board Landing Committee initiatives. So Mr. Wells, Mr. Milano.
Go ahead, Nick.
So just kind of big picture on a couple of things that we've been working on. We have our partners on the dredging project, which is Tie and Bond, have also been looking at the seawall down at Milton Landing. We've applied for a grant from the Seaport Economic Council to design an improved seawall that would result in kind of 3 distinct upgrades down there: improvements to the seawall, closing of the Captain's Landing ramp, and a replacement of the existing boat ramp with something that's more accessible to all potential users of the Deposit River here in Milton and elsewhere. I think that's kind of one of the bigger things that has been taken on in the last few weeks to get that submitted to the Seaport Economic Council, and Tim and Josh did a lot of great work on that, so wanted to mention that. We did have a meeting with the Yacht Club on winter boat storage today, but I think I'm jumping the gun. I don't know if Mr. Wells has anything else.
No, go ahead. I think we've come to a temporary agreement. Yeah, a temporary agreement to get us through the winter with the Yacht Club, which would allow them to pay a monthly rate and store the boats for the remainder of this winter. And then, depending on the outcome of the RFP, we would look at, and we did have the RFP meeting yesterday, and there was one significant interest there. There were two entities there, but one appears to have a very long-term interest with financial support, which is something that, but in light of that, we did have, you can tell me where if I go wrong, we did have discussions with the Yacht Club about trying to move forward, finding a way to continue to have winter storage of some type. on 41 Wharf. It may be a Lot A, but that's the agreement we came to today, and we'll leave it to Nick to try and work that out there, and they were agreeable. They were very agreeable
They
to
were
as well.
definitely agreeable, and they also offered to take out the docks.
For this year, yeah.
For
They
this
were
year,
moving
so
for
we
this year.
appreciate them doing that, and we took that into consideration with this negotiation, so went very well.
In the price we gave them, so they were very happy with it, and then,
So is this a deal
this
we want
Lot
to,
B?
is this a deal we, I'm sorry, is
Sure,
this
go
a
ahead,
deal
sorry
we
about
want to approve tonight, or?
Yeah, I think
guess we can.
the
I don't
approval
have
of
to
the
put the
board
numbers
would
out,
be.
but I guess we could approve
So
it.
it's $450 a month to June, with the understanding that we'll all work together in terms of a potential new tenant down there to maneuver things to have them have the storage they need for the next 6 months, 7 months.
Because we do know, and they understood that if there is a potential new tenant that goes there, that they would probably want to start before June. And so we agreed with them to make it amenable to keep Lot A open, and if we have to move anything from Lot B to Lot A for a couple of months, that we would do that and keep it at the same rate.
Must have I cut you off, sorry.
Sorry.
No, sorry about that. So I just wanted to clarify, this is for Lot B,
Lot
for the
B.
winter storage, correct?
All right, so $450 a month. Any other terms of the agreement?
That they will take out the.
Yeah, they'll take out the docks
The
for
docks.
this year, for this year.
For this year. And
What
I-
about install for next year?
That's an issue we're going to have to address. It is our dock, and town council's had some comments. We need to go with Aaron and I talked. Once we get the ramp done, then we can, the
We
dock
didn't talk
isn't a
about
big
the
deal. The ramp is the bigger deal than the docks.
We only got through this, and it's, like a 6-month lease,
Yep.
basically.
Yeah, it'd be more, they're a tenant well, no lease. Just a tenant well.
So
We said we would do it.
No, we'd have to put it on RFP if we did.
Right, Sorry.
So I'll make a motion to approve the $450 a month arrangement with the yacht club in exchange for their work to take out the ramps.
I'll second.
Take out the floats. Motion's been made.
I guess I got the ramp too. if
Yeah,
they want.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. All right, so that's winter boat storage. Good, great job, thank you. And then we have so that's item A and item C. Item B is the charge composition of the Select Board Landing Committee.
Mr. Chair, can
Yeah.
I ask a question?
Ms.
Can we go back up
Bradley.
to A? Nick, you said it
Sure.
was the seawall, the boat ramp. There was 3 things that you said, and I think I missed one.
Yeah, so the other one is there are 2 ramps, the one farthest down
Yep,
on the
that
far
little
right.
one?
The little
Captain's
one.
Call. We
yeah,
referred,
Captain's.
you heard it today.
Yeah.
They call it Captain's Landing.
So that's the other, so those are your the 3 goals that everybody's working on right now?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, back to item B, charge.
And I should mention the dock, a long-term, like a new replacement dock long-term as part of kind of an overhaul to that area that hits those long-term goals for better waterfront access
So-
to all potential users.
Mr. Wells.
Could we potentially move the charge to, because the landing committee wanted to be here tonight, and Mr. Carroll wanted to go into conservation, Mr. Burklow, I'd rather have them all here. I think it'd be prudent for them.
Defer
So if we
to
could
the
just defer
28th?
that.
Yep,
We could defer
the
that.
28th. And then the last one we have is the harbor
You
master.
can do that as well.
Defer that
You
to
can
the
defer
28th.
both of those.
All right, so we'll defer items B and D to the 28th.
Richard, just moving.
He knows.
He's expediting.
He knows.
Item 14, adoption of written procedures for designer selection.
Hold on one second. Tell them what Norwood does, just so it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's it.
What?
They do 2 hours, and then it ends. That's it. It's a 2-hour meeting. End.
Lexington does unending public comment.
Ooh.
Yeah, well, Norwood has no public
there's
comment.
there's no
They have no
limit.
public
There's
comment,
no
that's it.
Lexington. They go as long as it takes.
Keep
So-
going.
sorry,
Sorry.
Not to get off point. Item 14, discussion approval adoption of written procedures for designer selection in accordance with MGL Chapter 7C, Sections 44 to 58. Mr. Milano.
Sure. In order to select a designer or an architect for a public building project, we need to have written procedures. And reviewing some of our files on it, just wanted to refresh those going forward in anticipation of beginning architect selection for a new school. The draft written procedures are essentially the template recommended by the Office of the Inspector General with some Milton-specific tweaks. They were provided in the packet. I'm happy to answer any questions. But the process will be reiterated any request for services that is issued by the town for designer services. So we'll have, perhaps not in the 28th, but in December, a request for services for an architect for a school for the Select Board's review and release.
So these are noted as procedures, not a policy, so it doesn't seem that we would need a first and second reading of these. We can just adopt them if we
Make
wish.
a motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Okay. Item 15, discussion, update approval, town meeting member communication. Is this Mr. Milano for the
Sure.
update?
Yes, we've been continuing to work on this. I've put together some templates to start putting this into place. I still do have some questions from the moderator, and the town clerk had been out of office, so that delayed some action here. Happy to provide an update at our next opportunity to meet. Making progress. I don't think we're ready to announce anything at this point. At this point, kind of some of the fundamental pieces haven't changed, that we would set this up kind of mimicking what the town of Needham does. Town meeting members offer the opportunity to sign up, to provide their email, organized by precinct. Folks would submit a comment through the town website, which would then be distributed to town meeting members. Still working through some fundamental parts of that, but that's the overall gist that we've been working on for the last few
Comments
weeks.
or questions, Mr. Zoll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I guess my only, and I appreciate very much why folks have been unavailable, particularly the town clerk. I guess I'm concerned that if we are voting this in, if we decide that we want to have this and we voted in on the 28th, that we got town meeting happens 6 days from that point. So I just want to make sure that are we setting this up so that it would be ready to go on Wednesday morning on the 29th if we put it in place?
Just kind of two pieces on that.
Yeah.
From my view, we're basically ready to go now, as soon as the moderator, clerk, and everybody's kind of on board with it. I don't think it needs a select board approval, so if everything's good and they're okay, then we're good to go. It's more of a process thing, and if there are any decision points for the select board to make, I'd let you know, but this is more of kind of a procedural thing, that an operational item that we can just take care of, and obviously if the board's looking for updates, we'll continue to provide that, and if it's not live by the 28th, we'll make sure to have it on the agenda to explain that.
Ms. Bradley and then Mr. Wells.
Thank you so much. Is there an option to email just your precinct members or all town meeting members?
The way we've structured this has been that it would be precinct specific and not everybody all at once on one email blast.
And would you have to put in, if I can follow up, would you have to put in your precinct number so that you would only be allowed to email your own precinct? Or can we email each precinct individually?
It would be a form for each precinct.
Perfect.
So you'd have to fill out the form for each precinct to do that, which would take some time, but if folks wanted to, they may.
Right, I'm just thinking of the letters that I receive, and I know that those are mass mailed. So I just want to make sure that there is a way for folks to mass mail the town meeting members.
They could by precinct by precinct.
Perfect, thank you.
Mr. Wells.
So just one question. We're not giving them town emails?
No.
So it's still, because you go to town emails and everything, FOIA, that's all gone. Is FOIA going to come into this if you do it anyway? Well, that's still good. So let's say an individual town meeting member decides to email all their town, and someone knows about it, can they file a FOIA request with the clerk and get a copy of that email?
They could, if it is a public record, it's a public record today, tomorrow, whether we have this or not. So it's a question of whether all the town would be doing here is facilitating that and helping it be easier for folks. It doesn't change the question of whether it's a public record or not.
Okay, so that was my only question.
Yeah.
Other comments
And
or
I don't
questions?
know the answer of whether it is a public record.
So we don't need a vote? I'm good.
Doesn't sound like it. All right, item 16, discussion town forum regarding impact of Middle East violence on Milton residents. Mr. Zoll.
Oh, I thought you already did. I thought you moved that up.
Well,
All
this
right,
is
so
something a
I
little-
put a check next
Slightly
to that.
different.
Yeah, slightly different. We probably should have taken this at the same time, but.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think it's, I won't go on in detail about this, but I just wanted the Select Board to know that I'd had a discussion with both Rabbi Benjamin as well as Reverend Ward, who's the current chair of the Milton Interfaith Clergy Association, or MICA. This was prior to the discussion around the idea of a second flag. And I still think it would be a valuable service if MICA was interested in hosting a forum for residents about the impact of what's going on. My conversation with Reverend Ward was fantastic, and I expressed my hope that if there was such a forum, and I think they've been considering a couple of different ideas. Candlelight vigils were mentioned. My hope was that that MICA would sort of take two things into consideration. I think first, making sure that you had representatives from the Jewish community as well as the Muslim community that were allowed to speak in respectful manner, and that the focus of any forum like that would really be talking about the impact of this violence on Milton residents, and not as a forum to discuss foreign policy, which no one would have control over. And I think she took both of those suggestions very well. And my hope is that they are now considering this. I don't think the Select Board has necessarily a role to play here. But if there is such a forum, I think it would be worthwhile publicizing it. And potentially, Reverend Ward flagged for me, not having it at a place of worship might be more inclusive. And so if there is a way for us to help them think about a place to hold such a gathering, we might have a role to play there. But I think that would be about the extent of it. That's my...
And I will just add that my understanding, just from speaking with her yesterday, and I didn't realize you has, is that she's ready, willing, and able to participate in an event like this. So, other comments, questions? All right, so we'll see what goes forward with that. Holiday stroll item 17 we did. Item 18, a one-day liquor license for the Milton Arts Center.
I'll make a motion to approve a one-day liquor license. Sorry, I'm just doing the Milton Arts Center, 334 H Hill Road, Saturday, November 25th, homecoming comedy event.
I will second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 19, discussion approval.
Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you letter to Driscoll.
I'll make a...
Driscoll
this is for the
Landscape. I
deck.
just wanted to
This-
say that.
I'll make a motion to approve a letter of thanks to longtime resident and owner-proprietor of Driscoll Landscaping, John Driscoll, for, this is all of his contributions to the community. He did some yeoman's work this week on the deck. It's amazing what he did. I watched them. I've known John a long time, and he truly cares about this community, and he gives back in many, many ways, and I think this is the least that we can do.
So, thank you, Mr. Wells. This
Sorry,
letter
that was
references...
lengthy. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
That was
thank
lengthy.
you. This letter references just the town hall. We may want to expand it.
There's so much.
Expand it to include...
Senior
so much.
center, the
Yeah.
library.
Oh, yeah, the front of this building, he did all that, yeah.
Yeah, so, oh, wait a minute. Oh, you did mention that. Always look very, as do the Milton Public Library and the Council on Aging. So we just want to mention the Manning Park as well.
Let's send him a trip to Florida, too.
All right, has the motion been made and seconded?
I will second
Oh,
it.
the motion's been made and seconded, and Ms. Musto.
Thank you. I just wanted to also take the opportunity to thank Mr. Driscoll for all that he gives back to the community. And I did want to mention that I thought that I had brought this up, this same agenda item, like a year ago. And so I'm wondering, did we not send a letter to him a year ago?
I just want to make sure we're doing it annually.
Oh, annually.
Okay,
It's
so
the
I
end
just
of the
want to make
season.
sure.
No, and that's why it reminded me, because it was this time last year where we did this. So it's end of the season, fall cleanups, close to not quite done, but you look out on town halls, it's like the leaves don't even fall because they start to fall and then they're gone.
They're gone magically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wanted to just reiterate. I think we're lucky in this community that we have good people that give back to the community. And so I think it's wonderful we're giving this letter to Mr. Driscoll, and it's, I think, something that as a select board we should be doing all the time for people that give back to our community, to recognize them. And so I'm hoping that we can continue to do that with other people that give back. Thank you.
All right, motion's
vote?
been made and seconded. All those in,
Can I
Ms.
ask a
Bradley?
real quick question?
Yeah,
Are
please.
you signing on behalf of the entire select board, or is this something that we're going to have to pop in on?
Well, right now, it's styled with all of our signatures,
I
but
just
we
want
can,
to-
we can go back, we can go to the
I
way
don't,
we've
I
been
don't
signing
mind
it.
popping in.
I don't mind
It's-
popping in either.
All right, so why don't we
Yeah.
pop in?
Okay.
Why don't we do the pop in?
Pop in.
All right,
Pop
we'll do
it
the pop in.
Pop in.
All right.
I just want to know if I use it.
You should do the pop
You
in.
got that, Lynn? We'll pop it in.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Item 20, discussion approval of meeting members' minutes, September 19th, 2023. And why don't we go to Ms. Musto on the September 19th minutes?
Thank you. I tried to raise them the last time, the wrong place, I guess. So I wanted to add on the top of the second page, when we talk about the animal shelter.
Yep.
That Ms. Musto raised concerns about possible cost overruns related to ledge, and questioned who would pay for these overruns. She also raised concerns about leaving the $2.5 million towards the project on the table. And at the town farm location, there would be $5 million available towards the shelter.
God just spoke.
I don't know, was that me? Am I breathing heavily?
All right.
That was the only change, thank you.
Any other changes? Any others? I have one just down on the, under item 4, second sentence, or second line, it says, per the direction of the MBTA, Chair Zula shared a letter, and I didn't do it at their direction, so I think we're going to just strike per the direction of the MBTA, just to make
That
sure
makes
that
sense.
it's not clear that they...
I can
they-
proudly say in 7 years, I've never edited one. No, nothing.
All right, with those changes, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve as amended the
Second.
select board minutes from September 19th, and what was the other one?
September
26th. Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All right.
I call this the Arthur wave. This is the Arthur Doyle wave.
Item 21, Town Administrator's Report.
Sure, thank you. Joe Parlavecchia spoke about the upcoming event on December 2nd, so I won't mention that, only to say that the Halloween stroll was a great event. I was happy to be there, and I was, for the first time, the parents there was an announcement of a missing child, and it was my child. So, mid conversation with Roxanne. So,
While you were talking with
yes. I had the baby. Didn't have the other one, thanks to Debbie O'Neill and the others. So, it is a lot of fun for the kids. So please come down. We did appoint a new HR director, Carla Feedy, who is a Milton resident and has been with the town for the past year as our payroll clerk. Started as the new human resources director last week. So we're happy to make that internal promotion, and she'll be a great asset to the team. As I mentioned earlier, a special town meeting warrant is available online in mailboxes apparently as well. We are going to be having one more forum for the planning, by the Planning and Community Development Department, Thursday, November 28th. That'll be on Zoom. We're going to reach out to town meeting members specifically for this one. Obviously, anybody will be able to come, but we'll reach out directly to town meeting members to give one last opportunity for a presentation from Tim, lengthy opportunity for questions and answers as well. The last thing I want to mention was the Seussical, the musical, this weekend, and other events. Yeah, Thursday at 7, Saturday at 2, Saturday at 7. Still have tickets available. The Sunday show looks like it was already sold out.
The Sunday matinee was sold out.
Sunday matinee, excuse me.
What, are you producing this event?
Practically. We've got a cast member in the house.
All right. So two things from me. One is Veterans Day, which was another wonderful ceremony organized, produced, and directed by Kevin Cook. our Director of Veteran Services. And so, once again, for the past, I believe, 8 years, Kevin has been a valuable contributor and resource to this town. Kevin courageously announced at the ceremony that he's taking 7 weeks to deal with some personal issues related to his prior service in the military, and he will be back and ready to go in January, and we'll look forward to having Kevin back and better than ever in January. So thank you to Kevin, and thank you to all the veterans and everyone who showed up on Saturday. Second, about 2 weeks ago, I happened to go to a sportsman's tennis and enrichment center ball in the South End, and it turns out there were 2 Milton High School students who spoke at the ball, Kyle Denny and John Dinkins, both tennis players at Milton High School. And it was with great pride that I watched them deliver their speeches about the Sportsman's Tennis Club, and they were just fantastic. And they were great examples of the Milton Public School system, great examples of Milton, and it was just it was a great opportunity. And there were several other people from Milton there as well, Milton tables, and so Milton was well represented at the Sportsman's Tennis and the Richmond Center Ball, particularly by Kyle Denny, son of our school committee member, Beverly Ross Denny, and John Dinkins. So I did want to mention that. And am I forgetting something, Ms. Bradley? You'll help me there.
I just want to throw out another pitch, my regular pitch, to ask folks to please apply for committees. There are a lot of folks that are up for reappointment, and we'd love to see new blood come in and new folks with new energy and new ideas. So just because you see that there's, all the slots are full on a committee you're interested in, please don't take that as a message that you can't apply. We encourage everybody to apply, and hopefully we can get all those committees staffed up with the great diversity of our Milton neighbors. Thank you.
All right. Oh, Mr. Wells?
Oh, sorry, Ben had.
No.
Go ahead, Ben. Just wanted a quick shout out to the Milton High School boys football team, which has made the Final Four. I'm not sure. I don't know the date of their next game, but it's coming up. I think they face whoever won between Billerica and Westfield.
Yep.
And also, I want to shout out the Milton swim team. They did very, very well at states. I think the boys team actually won overall for the boys side. It's a combined score, so they didn't win outright, but there was a really great showing by a team that doesn't have their own pool. So congratulations to the Milton High School swim team.
Is that going to be in next week's Finance Committee report?
Well, we are building a new school. I would love to see a pool
I don't think that's on the agenda. I don't think that's on the agenda for discussion.
I've been pushing that.
Mr. Wells?
I'm not talking about pools. Just 2 things that you may have seen in last week's Milton Times. Longtime manager of Cunningham Park, retired Randolph school teacher Dave Waldron is stepping down after many, many years. I think it would be appropriate for us to send a nice letter of congratulations to him on his many years of service. And it might also be prudent of us to invite, just quickly, the new park manager, Gary Kelly, former president of Milton Boosters, longtime advocate and coach for Milton sports, especially the work that he's done for Milton girls softball for decades. Gary will be a great addition to the Cunningham Park Foundation, and I think for those of you who don't know, it might be just worthy to bring Gary in just for a minute to say hello.
Yep.
Maybe Mr. Milano can. I actually mentioned, I already said to, it'd be wise of Nick to at least meet him and have a face-to-face with him.
Ms. Musto. Thank you, Mr. Wells.
Thank you.
I just wanted to also thank Kevin Cook. I think that he has done a wonderful job representing the veterans in our town, and every program that he has put on has been so thoughtful and really meaningful. And I know that the family that was honored, their son was honored on Veterans Day. It really meant the Raffers. It really meant so much to them. And I wanted to thank all the veterans as well, and wish him the best and look forward to him coming back. And I also wanted to wish everybody that's watching a happy Thanksgiving, because we don't come back till after that.
Well, we do.
We
That's
do.
right,
we
but
do,
not really.
but
Not
really,
our highly rated highly
Yes,
rated
our
version.
prime
is-
time.
Yes, the prime time version
Right.
won't be back until
So.
after Thanksgiving. All right, item 24, future meeting dates. We have this Friday at a time to be determined as quickly as possible so we can get it posted tomorrow morning. And then we have the 28th, and then we have town meeting on the 4th. We may have town meeting on the 11th and the 12th, so we'll have those posted. And then we have Tuesday, December 19th. Those are our current dates. So, Mrs. Musto.
Just a quick question. Just wondering, is it that they couldn't get the auditorium on the next day?
Yeah.
Is that why
Yeah.
it is such a?
Yes.
There's a concert.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was a
okay. Because
booking.
people were asking.
Yeah,
They
it
don't
was
want to
a
go to
booking.
Pierce? They don't want to go to Pierce?
No, we went with those 3 dates. It was,
Sure, that's
Yeah, I
um,
mean, those are,
Yeah,
yeah, those are
it's
the
already
ones,
out.
it's already out. That was
Okay.
we approved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We don't want to move them to Pierce?
Are we on 26?
Go ahead. Yeah. So you're all set.
25, I mean, yeah. I'm all
25,
set,
25 future agenda items.
I have a suggestion, which
Okay.
would be, I'm wondering if our subcommittees, if we can allow like a 10-minute, up to 10 minutes for citizens speak, if anybody does want to speak at our subcommittees. I just think it would be a nice gesture. Not that we ever really have too many people that really want to speak, but in the event that someone would, it's not a huge amount of time.
So that's something we
So
can
put
talk
that to
about.
talk about later.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
this isn't
Do you-
on the agenda.
This
but-
is for a future meeting, like for our next
Yes,
meeting.
yes,
we can put it on the
we can put it on the
agenda
28th.
to talk about it.
You mean the select board subcommittees?
Well, any
Those
of
are the
our-
only ones
I
that
don't
we
think, I don't
govern.
think you have
That's the only one we
jurisdiction.
govern, that's
You don't
right.
have jurisdiction on
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
right.
any of the ones
We
that
couldn't
fall
tell the
under
school
our-
committee that
We
they
can,
have to
and
do.
we can't tell like the climate action committee what to do either.
Well, no, I'm
that's
thinking
ours.
That's
any of the.
Oh, we
ours.
could do all that.
That's
I'm
ours.
thinking of any of the committees that we appoint
Yeah.
as well, because sometimes people are on watching them, and it would be nice if they have the opportunity. I'm not saying for a huge amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
but oftentimes someone might just have a quick question or a comment.
Yep.
I think it would be valuable.
All right,
So just something to throw out
We'll
there.
put that on for the 28th.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Ms. Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to thank you for letting all of us speak during your chair's report.
Well, it's,
I don't know if that maybe, I really appreciate it because everybody always forgets to give my shout out for volunteer applications.
It actually used to say chairs report, members report.
So in the past, that was really that was an innovation of Tony Farrington, I think, to have all the members' reports. It almost got to the point where it seemed like we
You went
felt
around
an
the table,
obligation
yeah.
to go around the table.
right.
So I like to
okay.
keep this a little more
Thank you,
informal.
though.
If we
So
have
the chair's
something-
report can include whatever
appreciate that.
whatever you all want to say within reason. Within reason. All right. Well,
Motion to
thank you for
adjourn?
that. Thank you for that. Well, unfortunately, not
No,
not
well,
unfortunately.
motion to.
Let me make a motion.
Go ahead, you
on
make
that.
it.
We have items 26, 27, and 28. First, I'll make a motion to adjourn from open session and enter into executive session to approve and release executive session meeting minutes dated June 29, 2022, October 5, 2022, December 6, 2022, January 18, 2023, March 7, 2023, and September 5, 2023, related to the town's litigation against the FAA, and executive session minutes dated February 7, 2023, related to an open meeting law complaint filed by Philip Johanning on January 18, 2023, against the Milton Select Board not to return to open session. Do I have a second?
Second, yeah.
Motion's been made and seconded. This will be a roll call vote. All those in favor, Ms. Musto?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zoll?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Zulish, yes. I move to adjourn from open session and return to, and to enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to litigation based on my belief that discussion of this matter in open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the board. That litigation is Risa King et al. V. Patricia Leo, the Town of Milton, and Milton Police Department, and John E. King. Select Board will not return to open session.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, Ms. Musto?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zoll?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Zulish, yes. Finally, I move to adjourn from open session, enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to threatened litigation against the town by a town employee, based on my belief that discussion of this matter in open session may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the Select Board. The Select Board will not return to open session.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, Ms. Musto?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Mr. Zoll?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Mrs. Zulish, yes. Item 29,
I'll move to adjourn.
Motion's been made.
Second.
All those in favor?
Do we adjourn now, or are we?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we adjourn.
Okay.
We adjourn, and we're not going to return to open session. We're adjourning from open session.
All right.
Motion's been made and second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you
Happy
again
Thanksgiving.
on November 28th. Happy Thanksgiving
Thanksgiving.
to all.